Yeah, we're off. Hi, guys. I just dropped. Come on.
So, you might recognize us as a company that eats our
Come
own dog
on.
food. What we do is we pick one of our recipes.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
It's Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. This is End Time Headlines, news and headlines from a prophetic
Hey,
perspective.
Diane. Good to see
I'm
you.
your host, Ricky Scaparo, the founder and the voice.
Hey,
of
Phil.
End
Good
Time
to see you,
Headlines.
mate.
We want to welcome you to tonight's program. We've got a lot to unravel tonight and inform you of and get you up to par with. Before we get started, I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, hit that share button. Help us push this out and get our material out there on these platforms so other individuals can also be informed of our broadcast. Guys, I want to talk about it. It looks and appears like the empire of America, just like any empire in history, has a shelf life. In fact, the average cessation of empires is around 200 to 300 years. We have surpassed that. I believe we're on our.
Yeah, Phil, I gave a heads up before I hung up. I had some things to do. I had to do some banking because I'm going to Bali in a couple of weeks.
We've overrun the runway as it is. We're on our last leg, and I believe that time is running out for the nation of America. I know we're coming out the gate strong with some very strong statements, but I need you to hang around for a few minutes because we got a lot to cover tonight. Now I'm going to give you, we always want to give you some scriptures because after all, we're trying to give you these news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. I'm not going to pull this up because it would take too much time and I would not get through this whole podcast.
Thanks,
If
mate.
you want a reference to what I'm going to be discussing as far as the foundation goes, Leviticus chapter 26, Deuteronomy.
Yeah, Phil and Diane, just so you know, on the 23rd, I'm going to Bali for 2 weeks, and I haven't got smart TVs there, so I don't think I'll be able to stream YouTube, but I can show you around the resort and things like that.
28. You've heard me reiterate over and over again that any nation that begins to defy the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they turn from the true and living God.
Yeah, Phil, I don't like not streaming. Like 3 hours of my day is done streaming, and when it's not there, it's a long day. I really enjoy streaming with you guys.
They turn to idols, turn to idolatry, turn to abominations. They begin to completely shun all the commandments, statutes, the word of God, and so on and so forth. That nation, whether it be Israel, whether it be America, it doesn't matter. That nation who does that will perish.
Yeah.
And if you go to Deuteronomy 28, again, go do this in your own spare time. I challenge you to read the entire chapter of Leviticus 26, the entire chapter of Deuteronomy 28. There is what's called the blessings of God and the curses of God.
Diane, I hope he doesn't copyright. He did say share this video, so that's why I sort of took a punt. So I've never seen this guy before, so his heading's good. America is collapsing right before our eyes, so it's going to be interesting by the sounds of it.
The blessings of God are given to those nations who obey the word of God, obey the statutes, heed the commandments of God, and seek Him. And then it says all these blessings will come upon them. And it talks about blessing them. They'll be blessed financially. They'll prosper as a nation. They'll be fruitful. They'll multiply. They'll exceed. They'll have strength. They'll have power. They'll have might. They'll have prestige. They'll have respect from other nations. But on the other hand, those nations that completely turn from God Your Bible says they'll be cursed financially, they'll be cursed economically speaking, they'll be cursed. They will not be able to be fruitful and multiply. They'll decline in number. They'll reduce in number. They'll be inundated with plagues and famines and pestilences and droughts and disasters, and they will be the tail and not the head, and below and not beneath and not above. They will cease to be a nation. And I believe America has been under judgment. It's not, a lot of people getting on here and saying America is about to go into judgment or about to see judgment come to America. No, friend, judgment is happening in America. And the only reason that America is still afloat per se is because of the remnant that is still crying out, still interceding, still praying, and still standing in the gap and making up the hedge. If the remnant was not here, if there had not been a remnant still in America, I 100% fully believe that we would have been gone as a nation completely by now already. And again, this can apply to your nation too, wherever you're at. Just because you don't live in America doesn't mean this is not applicable to you. And I'm sure if you live in places like Australia and Europe and different places, you recognize what we're talking about. You're seeing it in your own nation and your own leadership and what's going on in your culture of your nation.
He's right.
And you can recognize whether the hand of God's favor is upon you or it's being lifted slowly. Okay, so I want to talk tonight about how there is multiple reports that it looks like the entire system of America is collapsing before our eyes. In fact, here is an actual article from Michael Snyder. And here's what it says. The entire system is crumbling. Major red flags are popping up for banks, small businesses, and retailers. Despite this current administration and Bernie from the Weekend at Bernie's that's being propped up.
Same here, Phil. Look at all the natural disasters that have hit us since the eclipse Revelation 12 in 2017. Look at the natural disasters that are striking everyone. We're being judged. I completely agree, Phil.
In the White House, who trying to portray everything is fine, everything is dandy, the economy's great, we're flourishing, we're prospering. There are, for anyone who has a brain, can see all the trouble erupting all around us. All these red flags are completely being ignored. They're being distorted. They're being manipulated, and there's so much fabrications going on in the markets and all the reports and everything else that's going on. But when an individual gets down to it and they take a look at the cold hard numbers that the economy continues producing, there's only one logical conclusion. And that is that the entire system, the house of cards, is crumbling, is collapsing, and it's only going to get worse. For example, the FDIC's...
We're getting a lot of gales this winter, Phil. The wind's been really bad. It's been a really windy winter so far.
Most recent report tells us that there are 63 problem banks in the United States. 63 problematic banks in the United States, and collectively our banks now have $517 billion in unrealized losses. Now this is stacked on top of the trillions of dollars that our nation is already in debt to. According to the FDIC's first quarter report, the U.S. banking system is sitting on a collective $517 billion with a B in unrealized losses and has 63 problem banks. Those losses have been sparked primarily by a surge in interest rates over the past 2 years, which have driven down the price of fixed income securities held by banks. Unrealized losses held by banks increased by $39 billion in the first quarter relative to the fourth quarter of 2023. Higher unrealized losses on residential mortgage-backed securities resulting from higher mortgage rates in the first quarter drove the overall increase. Now, as far as having a list of what banks are on this problem list, the FDIC will not make this public. Why is that? Because
Yeah, Phil, that was a pretty big judgment, the Twin Towers. You're right.
listen, the reason why is because if the FDIC, excuse me, ever released that to the public, it would absolutely cause bank runs. It would cause chaos and pandemonium, and it would collapse the whole system. Let me read this quote. We don't know. We don't get to know which banks are in trouble. It could be my bank, it could be your bank, or maybe it's not. Are they big banks? Are they small ones? The list is confidential to inhibit the likelihood of bank runs finishing off these institutions. What are the causes of these banks continuing to deteriorate? And I would even say that it's probably one of the main causes is that because there is tons of commercial real estate loans that are going sour. Let me say that again. There's a huge number of real estate commercial loans that are going south. They're going bad. At this point, it has become clear that we have never faced a commercial real estate crisis of this magnitude in our entire history. The collapse of the commercial real estate market could easily spill over into the financial sector. That's because a lot of loans are coming due. According to a report from Mortgage Bankers Association, around $1.2 trillion of commercial real estate debt in the U.S. will mature over the next 2 years. Now, you couple this with a recent...
Diane, that says that buffaloes are portent of good times to come. I think it's the opposite.
Survey that discovered that approximately 2/3 of all small businesses in the U.S. are teetering on the brink of complete disaster. Quote, a new survey reveals that over 2/3 of small business owners are terrified of the state of the economy under Joe Biden's watch, fearing that current conditions and ongoing downward trends will lead to them having to close their businesses completely. Now, why is that important? Here's why, in case you didn't know this, close to half of all the workers in the U.S. are employed by small businesses. So if they collapse, friends, we're in huge trouble. We're already in huge trouble, but I'm trying to give you a better understanding of this. Forbes estimates that at least 46% of all employees in the United States, and this is 61.6 million people in total, are employed by small businesses. And the U.S. economy last month, in the month of May, lost a whopping 408,000 jobs. People are losing jobs by the droves, and it's coming from AI, it's coming from robots, it's coming from, and we're going to talk a little more about this in a minute, it's coming from businesses that are shutting down, restaurants, retail, all this. They call this the retail apocalypse. This is happening. Mark B. Spiegel recently discussed major retailer after major retailer has been reporting disappointing sales numbers. Let me give you this quote. The U.S. economy seems to finally be cracking. This month, a slew of retailers, and we're talking about the top dogs here, Target, Lowe's, Macy's, Kohl's, Best Buy, and Foot Locker, all reported negative year-over-year sales comps, and that's before adjusting for the inflation that makes them 3 to 4% more negative in real terms. Others, Dollar General, Burlington, all reported same-store sales comps in the plus 2% range, but that too was negative when adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, Walmart and Nordstrom comps managed to roughly keep pace with inflation, but were unable to exceed it. Now remember, Walmart at one time was the unstoppable retail giant. We used to joke about this, and we used to say that you truly know that you're in the apocalypse when you see Walmart and Waffle House shutting down. You know, how many's ever heard that joke? That's a joke we have in the South. We could throw Dollar General in there too. That's another joke. If you see them three shutting down, friends, you know that we're heading into uncharted territory. But that's what's happening.
This is serious. God, you guys are weird.
Oh, man, look how long this ad is.
Finding a decent flatmate. hard. Rest. Super simple.
Switch to Felix and enjoy plans with no
Oh,
lock-in
man.
contracts. Says me, locked in a pub.
Look at Sarah. Every day after work, she had to lay with her legs raised as her legs twitched. She struggled with pain and swollen feet from edema.
A report indicates that even Walmart is now closing stores. Quote, Walmarts are closing across the country, and retail experts say the cuts are signals of a bleak future for shoppers. The multi-million-dollar corporation has closed 9 stores so far this year, which could be a warning sign for other retail giants. Let me interpret that for you. If Walmart, who has been known as the retail kingpin at the top, if they're shutting stores down, what's that going to say? What's that mean for your Targets and your Lowe's and your Macy's and your Kohl's and your Best Buys and your Foot Lockers? It means they're inevitably going to be on the chopping block. In fact, new reports indicate that we're on pace to lose, listen to this number, 7,800 stores.
Hey, Susan, good to see you.
7,800 stores will be shutting their doors by the end of 2020. Guys, listen to me. We are in the stages of a historic meltdown. In fact, one economist, Harry Dent, made a bold prediction recently and said that he predicted that the stock market crash worse than 2008 is coming and inevitable, and he called it the bubble of all bubbles. And speaking in an updated interview with Fox News, Dent cautioned that the everything bubble has still yet to burst, and it may be a bigger crash than the Great Recession.
Wow.
Quote, in 1925 to 1929, it was a natural bubble. There was no stimulus behind that, artificial stimulus per se. So this is new. This has never happened, according to Dent. He went on to say that what do you do if you want to cure a hangover? You drink more, and that's what they have been doing. They have been flooding the economy with extra money forever, might actually enhance the overall economy long term, but we'll only see when let me back up. But we'll only see when we see this bubble burst. And again, this bubble has been going for 14 years instead of most bubbles going 5 to 6. It's been stretched higher and longer, so you'd have to expect a bigger crash than what we experienced in 2008 and 2009.
You know, I was watching another documentary. This will surprise some. I was watching a documentary over the weekend.
Where are you now?
I was. It's called Hitler and the Nazis. Have you seen that? Really excellent documentary. It's got all kinds of actual footage.
Oh, is that the one that keeps popping up on Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it popped up so many times. I'm like, okay.
All right, I'll click on the mustache.
You got me. You got me. I'm going to do it. So it's actual footage mixed in there with some recreations, and they spend some time talking about the Nuremberg trials. But what it shows you is how everything began in Germany, the rise of Hitler, how he came to power, and the fact that, you know, people were not where they eventually wound up on Jews. I mean, it took some time, and it took some propaganda, but it shows the path that, frankly, we're on right now. And it's chilling to me. How can we be so short-sighted as to follow that path again? To see all of the warning signs that were going on in Germany in the 20s and 30s happening here and completely ignore them. Oh, yeah, okay, we got anti-Semitism on college campuses and in our streets. And yeah, sure, they're calling for the extermination of Jews, but that's just a few people. This is how it starts. This is how it spreads.
He's spot on.
And aside from that very important factor of the rise of Hitler and Nazis, you didn't even mention our economies. and hyperinflation right around the
Exactly.
corner because
Right.
we are.
Right.
It's
And we've talked about this before, but in the Weimar Republic, in I think it was 1923, things were so bad that by the time people started getting their paycheck every day, because it had to be that way, because by the afternoon, prices had increased so much that their entire paycheck couldn't buy a loaf of bread. So they'd get their check, which would be, $20 trillion. And they'd run out and they'd get a loaf of bread with it in the morning. If they waited till the afternoon, sorry, the loaf of bread is now $40 trillion. You can't afford it. I mean, that's also a trajectory that we're on right now. Congratulations. I mean, that kind of hyperinflation is not immediately going to happen to us, but we're setting all of the precedent for it.
okay. Listen to this nugget from marketplace.org. This is an article. Let's see. And this is a couple months back. The average monthly payment on a new mortgage rose 46% in 1 year. From
Here?
14, in the United States of America.
Oh my gosh.
Here we go. Okay.
My gosh.
Okay, so this stat is, so I'm going to tell you what the average mortgage payment was in the United States at the end of 2021
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end of 2022. $1,400, the end of 2021.
The average mortgage payment. All right.
End of 2022, that was up to $2,045. Almost double.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, well,
In
about
a year?
Let's see, 1,400. Not almost double. Sorry, 1,400 to 2,045. So I mean, still up.
Okay, still
up quite a bit. 46%.
$600.
46% as the article said, Keith.
That's crazy.
I mean that's just on the interest rate. That's the ridiculousness of our interest rates right now.
Yeah.
So I want to see this at the end of 2023. So if you went from 1,400 to 2,045 from the end of 2021 to 2022, what was it like a year after that? What is it like today? Because they're not going down.
No, Bidenomics is going really, really well. You're doing so much better than you think you are. Well, I don't know why you can't listen to this man. He's trying to tell you that you're doing great.
What was his quote? They've got the money. They're just mad that things are more expensive.
Yeah, you have plenty of money. And that's what they were telling people in the Weimar Republic. Look, you just got a paycheck that is $10 trillion. Yeah. 4 trillion marks equaled $1 US.
Wow.
4 trillion was equal to $1. And that's what happens when you just print money. That's what happens when you allow inflation to just spin out of control.
So $2,390. So we've gone from $1,400 monthly payment. This is before property taxes, insurance, stuff like that. So $1,400 a month at the end of 2021. Today it's $2,390.
Oh my gosh.
So you think about that, everything I just told you, and then you think about the ongoing major cities from coast to coast continually being terrorized by theft, violence, drugs, homelessness, gangs, and complete lawlessness and anarchy. If things are this bad now, we haven't even got to November yet. We haven't got to the elections yet. I'm telling you, friend, we're charting in unprecedented territories. We've crossed that Rubicon, that threshold, and it's going to get rough. I'm telling you, I believe rough waters are ahead. By the way, just in case you thought I was blowing smoke here, let's look at this headline right here. Quote, Walmart, I'm going to read the whole thing, store clouds. Walmart store closures are a warning sign, look at that, of a retail apocalypse with other chains also facing threats. Walmart, which operates 5,000 stores in the U.S., is also reportedly laying off hundreds of corporate employees as the company urges remote workers to come into work. Retail analyst Neil Saunders told Yahoo that Walmart's closures in 2016, captured by retail photographer Nicholas Eckhart, were the beginning of a pattern in store cuts. So this analyst goes back to 2016, and he's saying that in 2016, this was the beginning of patterns in store cuts. So again, that's almost 10 years ago. And then the pandemic came and that just put the foot further on the gas and it accelerated the domino effect. The blunt truth is that while stores remain a vital part of the retail mix, they are not quite as relevant as they used to be. What's he talking about? Walmart's decision is part of a larger shift that will be played out across all parts of the retail sector of the coming year and beyond. Saunders' prediction turned out to be largely true, as 9 Walmarts are closing this year across 4 states. But so what he's saying here, guys, is now, of course, they're not saying it's the state of the economy. They're saying it's the cultural shift where we have gone from the brick and mortar stores to online, which I don't disagree at all saying that doesn't have a huge part in it, because it does. And there was only one.
I'm alive. Just kidding. I'm dead inside, emotionally, but that's neither here nor there. There's still only one cure for hungry, thirsty, and that's Oak. With its full strength and full taste, it's full on. Oak. Cure hungry, thirsty, dead.
When we understand that we all have moments like these. There you are, doing it your way. Because family services on your terms?
Now that's living.
The Benevolent Society. Your life, your way.
Thank you. This is roadside assistance.
Dear Ruggable, thank you for your washable rugs. Rugs that are here for our good days.
I don't like it. I'm not one that, listen, there's a lot of things. Yes, there's a lot of things that you can order online and it's great and it's convenient. But come on, man, there's some things that I don't want to go shopping online for. If I'm going to buy furniture, I want to sit on the couch. I want to sit on that recliner. I want to sit on that sofa to determine if it's comfortable or if it's going to measure right, or if it's going to fit right, or if it's going to look like, or if the color looks good and with my real eyes versus looking online. If I'm going to, listen to me, if I'm going to buy clothing, I want to see it. I want to try it on. Are you hearing me today? There's some things, friend, that you can't order online. This is ridiculous. And again, but this is what can we do? This is the new normal. And then we have our food and groceries. Look at this headline. More than a quarter of Americans now admit to skipping meals due to skyrocketing grocery costs. 26% of respondents claim they purchased unhealthy foods for themselves or their families because of inflation. This report by Fox News says 80% of Americans say they have felt a notable increase in grocery costs in recent years. More than a quarter of respondents said that the increased costs has led them to occasionally skip meals altogether. While about 1/3 said they spend more than 60% of their monthly income on mandatory expenses such as food, utilities, and rent. Hit me up in the chat, guys. What are you seeing in your area? Because there was a report that came across to us, it was given to us, and we shared this on our Telegram channel, where the cost of beef was absolutely astounding in places up north. And then it actually caused a debate in the chat up there on our Telegram, because some people wasn't seeing those price hikes where they live, but it was being seen in other places. So some places, I really feel like it's getting the pinch on this, whereas other places, I'm not saying that they're not impacted at all, but it's not as excessive or as troubling, as extreme as we're seeing in other places. So I'd love to hear from you where you live. What is the price of your meat, your eggs, your milk, the cost of going out to eat, even if it's fast food, whatever the case may be. Food insecurity is a major issue in this country, as millions of Americans don't have enough food to eat or don't have access to healthy food. And that's sad. That's truly sad, friends. And this is probably one of the reasons why, and I'm not saying it's the sole reason, but one of the reasons why we're seeing this uptick or this huge increase. It's not an uptick, it's actually a major increase in these mysterious cancers like colorectal cancer, stomach cancers, lung cancers, and all these things that are popping up in young people. Over the past few years, the rising costs of food and household staples have put American households in precarious situations, especially low-earning households who have families to feed. While we're seeing early signs of inflation relief for food, I don't know where I'm not seeing that. They keep saying this, we're getting relief from inflation in food. Where? Where are we getting relief from? Because I'm not seeing it in the state of Georgia. I went to the state of Virginia. I didn't see it there. I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe you're seeing it. Let us know in the comments. Americans are still facing rising costs for other necessities such as rent and gasoline, which could be counteracting their journey towards financial stability. Listen to this. Grocery prices have risen 25% since the beginning of the, here it is, pandemic in early 2020. I want to read this. This is from the Liberty Daily. Quote, between rising food prices, drought-driven shortages, increasing demand, and an obsessive effort by governments and globalist entities to eliminate real meat from our diets, and that's not a conspiracy, that's being touted and it's being said. Beef is posed to be extremely valuable in the years and even months to come. A particular value will be shelf-stable beef, whether it's canned, dehydrated, or freeze-dried. Having beef that is still safe and nutritious for years is sparking the interest of people across the country. It isn't just the doomsday preppers who are concerned. The last 3 years have caused tremendous anxiety to be felt by Americans, and for very logical reasons. So let's think about why. Why is this happening? Because there's a push to go meatless. There is the current bird flu virus, which is now crossed over conveniently into the livestock, and it's impacting cattle ranches and ranchers all across the country. So this is why this is probably one of the main reasons why meat prices are going up and up and up, because it's eventually they're trying to push you away from meat. They're pushing you away from this. And again, guys, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit trail again of the WEF and the elites that have consistently said that, you know, they've been pushing eating crickets and eating insects and all of these things that, and again, it's not even a conspiracy. It's been touted, it's been said, it's been openly discussed in forums and conferences, and the list goes on. And not to mention that there's this push for artificially manufactured meat, laboratory created meats and foods that are they're not natural in origins. They're being created in laboratories. And there's a push for this stuff, guys, and it's getting stronger and stronger. Then, on top of that, think about everything we talked about. Then on top of that, we've got all these extreme weather disasters. In fact, there was a new article that came out today by CNN. Let me give you this headline. Why this summer's forecast is bad news for the U.S. after an exceptionally disastrous start to the year. What in the world is this about? Let me read this to you. Quote, the United States has been rocked by an extraordinary number of tornadoes and devastating storms this year that have already left a staggering price tag. Again, another blow to the economy, but not just the economy. It is affecting farmers. It's affecting our food, because some of these places getting hit by this is where we get our food production. Now, and since I just thought of this, I want to throw this out there. What about all of the fires that have mysteriously broken out at poultry farms, dairy farms, a cow farm, whatever the case of?
Diane, I own nothing most of my life anyway, so that won't matter.
Some type of place where food is manufactured. Has anybody seen all the uptick and increase of these quote unquote disasters and accidents that keep happening? Anyway, now heading into what forecasters say. Now think about this. Extraordinary number of tornadoes already hit us in the spring. Now we're heading into summer. And forecasters say this will be, and I quote, an extreme summer. from punishing heat waves to severe weather and hurricanes. The nation's disaster relief agency is expected to, quote, run out of money before it's even over. Wow. I'm going to look at this on the screen here. The U.S. has been thrashed with 11 extreme weather disasters with costs exceeding $1 billion so far this year, with a total price tag of 25.1 billion. This is according to an update from the NOAA. It's tied for the second most disasters on record and doesn't even include the extreme weather in the second half of May. So it could actually precede that. It could actually go above that. Quote, that is worrying news for
Oh man, it's glaring. Hang on, guys.
Agency. That is FEMA.
I hate when it glares.
This major disaster relief fund could slip into the red by the end of this summer. And more than $1.3 billion in shortfall in August. So question, where are we going to get the money? What happens if all the predictions of the meteorologists,
hey Jay, good to see you, mate.
The NOAA, what if all those predictions come to fruition? They've been telling us this is going to be horrific for hurricane season. What if we get hit by, let's say, 6 major category 4 or 5 hurricanes? Florida, Louisiana, Texas, somewhere on the coast. What if it goes up to the East Coast? What if it strikes somewhere in New York or New Jersey? What is that going to look like? Again, this is chilling, guys, to even read this. Without additional funding, FEMA will take steps prior to funding exhaustion to ensure resources are available to support ongoing life-saving and life-sustaining activities. The spokesperson, a recent spokesperson said, in the event of a major catastrophe like a hurricane, the agency would have a funding reserve set aside for initial response and recovery operations. So listen, you're going to have to decide now. If you live on the coast, we're getting ready. Again, we're heading into hurricane season, and it doesn't look good. You live over on the West Coast, you already know.
It's only a day old, guys.
Like over the recent years, you need to listen. You need to be prepared now, and you don't need. I would not be counting on somebody else to come and bail me out. The cavalry may not be coming. The boat coming to pick you up may not be coming. The plane that dropped water on your house and put out the fire may not be coming. FEMA may not be coming.
You don't want FEMA to come.
May not be coming. So again, there's personal responsibilities here. I'm telling you, we need to prepare now because this is coming down the pipe. Now, while all of this is going on, you got all this going on. You've got this situation with Russia that is getting more and more volatile. In fact, there was a report that indicated for the first time in history, Russian propagandists got up on Kremlin television and called America the enemy or an enemy of the state. First time in history, America was deemed an enemy of the state, according to Russia. Russia also said that America made a crucial mistake, or they said the West made a crucial mistake because they had their hands right in the middle of supplying NATO with weapons, with aircraft, with weaponry, and the list goes on. And as a result of this, consequently, look at this headline here. I'm going to pull this up. This is going on right now as we speak. Russian ships and a nuclear submarine are passing the Florida coast, and they are headed to Cuba. According to the report, 3 Russian Navy ships and a nuclear-powered submarine seem to be passing the Florida coast today on June 11th. They're on their way to Cuba for a military exercise. Now, guys, this has not happened since the 1960s with the Cuban Missile Crisis. That event was so was so significant that the powers that be at that time considered that the greatest threat to a nuclear war than we had ever been in history. And that was the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 1960s, when Russia was bringing nuclear weapons to Cuba in preparation to strike the U.S., and the U.S. was moving nuclear weapons to a certain location as well. So here we are today. History is all repeating itself. And we have Russia that is advancing ship.
Welcome to Jelna. Let's go see how Jelna pot set yogurt's made. Fresh milk's poured into our special pot. Then, with a little time and a great deal of care, we create uniquely thick and delicious Jelna pot set yogurt.
This is serious. God, you guys are weird.
Oh, come on, Abs.
Yuki Bear Sweet Dreams, the all-in-one sleep aid.
The future of money is instantly sending money to Revolut friends.
Ships, nuclear-powered submarine, and the list goes on. Right off the coast of Florida, on their way to Cuba to conduct quote-unquote military exercises. Officials told Reuters the U.S. Navy will monitor the exercises. The officials spoke on the condition of anonymity to provide details that had not been made public yet. Cuba said in the release last week, the ships...
They wouldn't have been game enough to do that, or even 10 years ago, go through Cuba like that. They wouldn't have been game enough. America was too strong 10 years ago.
Carried no nuclear weapons and did not represent a threat. The visit corresponds to the historical friendly relations between Cuba and the Russian Federation, and strictly adheres to the international regulations. But guys, look, you may trust all this, but I don't. This is the problem we have. This is like the boy who cried wolf. The Russia and Ukraine conflict has gone on and drug on so long that this TikTok attention span generation has done forgot about it. They've moved on. It's old news, yesterday's news. Nobody cares. We're moving on. The same thing with Israel and their conflict with their enemies. People get tired of hearing about it. They'll get sick of it. They're wanting something new. They'll look for the newest thing, the latest thing, and they'll forget about it and they'll move on. And I'm not saying it's not going on and it's not continuing, because it is, but people's attention spans are losing it. So why is that a bad thing? Because people are not paying attention anymore. They're not preparing anymore. They're not taking things seriously anymore. So when Putin and the Kremlin threaten to nuke the West, threaten to annihilate us and wipe us out, people are like, yeah, whatever. Nobody's blinking an eye. Nobody cares. They're shoving their shoulders, and we just move on with life. But this, my friends, is very dangerous. To me, you know what this does? I'm going to be honest with you. This, to me, gives you the greatest hypothesis, watch this, on how you could see a scenario like the book of Revelation talks about, where it talks about Mystery Babylon is destroyed in 1 hour's time. Friend, in John's day, in 95 AD, when he made such a statement as an entire kingdom would be destroyed in 1 hour's time, that was impossible in his day. They did not have the weaponry or the technology and the capability to wipe out an entire city or a nation in 1 hour's time. But you fast forward to our lifetime, all they have to do is drop one nuke and a city is wiped out in a blink of an eye in 1 hour's time. And your Bible says that the nations will stand afar off because of the smoke rising out of Mystery Babylon that was destroyed in 1 hour's time. And they'll weep and they'll wail because they are losing merchandise from her. She was a top supplier to these nations, and it's all been ended in 1 hour's time. I'm just saying, when I read things like this, it gives you that chill across your spine, because if you know your Bible, it lets you know that we are truly, friends, in perilous times. Now I want to bring up one more final angle. I want to kind of take us back. I want to kind of give you a recap on this. So we see the economy reeling, the retail industry reeling, the food industry is reeling. Yet our enemies are closing in on us. And one of the things I thought about, this is what I thought about what's going to happen? What's it going to look like? Or where are we going when all the retail collapses, the brick and mortar collapses, everything goes online, everything, it seems like we're getting pushed in and pushed in and pushed in and pushed in. Have you ever heard of what's called a 15-minute city?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard this? Let me give you a quick synopsis of what this is.
Good. I don't know much about the 15-minute cities.
The 15-minute city concept, developed primarily to reduce carbon emissions by decreasing the use of cars and motorized commuting time, is decentralized urban planning model in which each local neighborhood contains all the basic social functions for living and working. In other words, everything is within a 15-minute accessibility. You don't need to go to Walmart because there won't be a Walmart. You won't need to go to your local grocery store because you'll be able to order it online. You don't need to leave your neighborhood or your house. You can work remotely. You can work from home. After all, it's not that AI is going to take your job, or a robot's going to take your job, or who knows what and who's going to take your job. So again, events and friends, listen, they're already in the construction of this. These blueprints are laid out. They're already preparing for these 15-minute city concepts where everything can function within that locality or that proximity. Let me read this. Many people argue that the concept of creating localized neighborhoods in which residents can get everything they require within 15 minutes by walking, cycling, or on public transport will ultimately improve the quality of life. Again, you will own nothing and be happy. Such spaces entail multi-purpose neighborhoods instead of specific zones for working, living, and entertainment, reducing the need for unnecessary travel, strengthening a sense of community, and improving sustainability and livability. Wow, doesn't that sound wonderful? And if you think that people are not buying this hook, line, and sinker, one executive director said, quote, "I would like to live in a self-sustainable city. As an urban planner, I focus on the importance of neighborhood planning, and the 15-minute city offers you that self-sustainability." Here is Kent Larson, director of City Science Group at MIT Media Lab, and he said the following, quote, "Companies are planning to have local satellite offices near where people live that will reduce commuting. It may well end up with
Hey, Shawnee, good to see you.
Utilized property in cities that could be converted to more affordable housing, and in these suburban areas, it will encourage the development of the assets of the city, villages, kind of micro cities. Cities can be a network of more livable, resilient communities. This is and listen what he says, this is an inevitable trend. In other words, translation, this is coming in the future. Now, think about this. If everybody's localized to a 15-minute perimeter, then you know what this else is going to do? It's going to be more easy for everyone to be tracked. Everything you do, because you're not going out of that perimeter. You're not traveling as much. Everything is going to be easily traceable and trackable right there in that community. Friends, it is time to wake up and realize everything the Bible told us that was going to happen in the last days, a one world government run by a one world leader with a one world system, with a one world religion, and a buying, selling, trading system that we forced on humanity. All of that stuff that you thought all of the religious quacks that were saying this had lost their minds. Isn't it interesting that it seems like the stepping stones are getting us closer and closer to this becoming a reality? And I'm going to leave you with Luke 21:28. Jesus said,
Lord, Shawnee's son's got lines apparently. I don't know what that is, Lord, but please go in and do your thing and fix it. We ask on behalf of Shawnee and her son, Lord, please go in and do your thing.
When you begin to see all these things coming to pass, it is time to look up and lift up your heads because your redemption is drawing near. Listen to endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. I want to encourage you today, guys, if you've not picked up our free app, I want you to go to your Play Store today, Apple, Android. Pick it up today. This is how you can keep up with our ministry. You'll be notified of every headline, every podcast when it's readily available. All you got to do is download the app, hit yes to push notifications, and you're going to be squared away.
Okay, that one's over. There's Phil. Oh, wrong one.
Our fried rice hack, tofu.
And sesame oil. Make tonight rice night with Sunrise.
Upgrade your shave with Gillette Labs. The pivoting disc turns with your face for an unbeatably smooth finish. Gillette Labs, unbeatably smooth.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Prophetic Worldview. I'm so glad that you're here today. I have a very special guest I'm going to bring on in just a minute. I want to give you a quick scripture, though, found in Matthew chapter 18:6. It says, whoever shall cause one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for them than a millstone be tied around their neck and were cast into the depths of the sea. There ain't no doubt that God loves his little children. He loves his creation. And no doubt he's made us stewards, all of us, over his creation and be protectors of them. And so I wanted to bring that scripture out today because of a very special guest. His name is J.J. Carroll. I'm new to him. I've only seen him a couple of times on Redacted and some other places in the media world. He's been in a lot of different networks, and he's a 24-year veteran of the Border Patrol. And I'll allow him to speak some more to his history. He's also the author of Invaded, a book called Invaded. And he is working on a documentary called This Is Treason, thisistreason.com. You can go there and pre-order your videos. I believe August or at least the fall, the videos should be ready. He'll tell more about that. We want to promote that and help him. He is doing the business, folks. He's on the front line in the trenches. And I brought him on to talk about the cabal and all that's happening here in America and literally around the world. So no more a waste of time. Here's J.J. Carroll. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I believe this topic touches every fabric of America's life, and I believe absolutely without a shadow of a doubt is the #1 threat to our republic.
Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. JJ, I want you to take the liberty and take the time, as we discussed before on we started recording, just again, share some of your history, and then let's get into some of these topics that, again, all of us need to be aware of. And I want to say this from the get-go. It always seems to me that the church is the last one to catch up. They're the last ones that catch up with what's happening in current reality. In other words, pastors shield their people. They shield the reality of what's happening. And I think when we do that, it's an injustice. We need to be on the front line,
amen,
hand in hand with people like you and others, activists, believing and bringing change. So can you help us do that with information? I think information is the change agent of all things.
Oh, you know what? I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying that about our faith leaders, because I believe that's where we're lacking the most. I just do. I'm a Catholic Christian. I'm a sinful man, obviously, as we all are, but I pray for God's mercy. But if you look at what's happening, when you start looking at when we'll get into later, the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, they are all under religious organizations. They are under the umbrella and hidden in religion.
Shawnee, what causes Lyme's?
And God, and they are systematically the change. You want to talk about change agent? They are the change agent of the federal government, and we can get into that. But I want your audience to understand before I get started, because I think it's very important when you meet somebody that you know where they're from and why they have the perspective they do. I'm not a cable talking head, even though I've been on all the cable shows. I am academic in the sense that I have researched and studied this extensively. However, I'm not the guy that just takes a camera and shows you people crossing. I lived that life for 24 years down on the border. My perspective comes from a decade on the Tijuana border during the most violent times in recent Border Patrol history. I ran ATV units. We're high rapid response teams. Every single day I put on my gun, my badge, I was assaulted. And my guys were assaulted. Baling wire tied across the border fences in order to try to decapitate us as we rode our ATVs 50 miles an hour chasing groups, fighting day in and day out with gangbangers, rapists, murderers, child predators, bloodied, spilled my blood, and spilled a lot of people's other blood on that border. I'm not ashamed to say it. I kept America safe with my guys. We did things in the dark of night that people, especially the liberal and the rhinos, that they frame and they're disgusted by. But they like putting their head on the pillow at night and not being raped and pillaged in their houses. Well, that's what my guys did. I took a transfer up the coast to Southern California in a place called San Clemente, California, Camp Pendleton, where the Marines are, and I created a 60-man unit called Coastal Border Enforcement Team. Very proud of this team because it's CBET for short. But when we started to lock down the border, criminals like to take the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance was the Pacific Ocean. So I created something that was absolutely brand new, which is rare in life, and especially in law enforcement. And my 60-man would lay up at night, midnight shift, and wait for these pongas, giant open bow Mexican fishing vessels. And they would have 30 to 40 people on it they were smuggling, and or toward the end, El Chapo Guzman, Sinaloa cartel, infamous drug lord, his cartel took over those routes. So then we became a narcotic interdiction team where we were just arresting 10,000 pounds of narcotics a night and arresting 30, 40 people every time. It was dangerous. It was great. I loved it. I know it says a lot about me, but I know it says quite a bit negatively about me. The border, I want your audience to understand, is almost a different place on planet Earth. It's almost as if it's out there on Venus or Mars. It is desperate. It's hopeless. It's dirty. It's violent beyond anything you could ever imagine. There is a sense of desperation. The weak get devoured. That weak agents, weak illegal aliens, they call them pollos. And I know what it says about me, but I thrived in that environment. I loved it. God built me specifically for that job, and I thrived and I was excellent at it. I moved up the ranks into senior leadership. San Diego sector has 2,500 agents at the time. I was in the top 25. So I have a good 20,000 foot view from all the policies and laws that are pushed down from DC and how they implement it, how you do manpower, everything in between. I worked all the California border coastlines and to the east, to eastern corridors, and all the way through into Arizona, which you see. I never worked Texas, but I worked the Arizona-California border throughout my career. I say that because that is my perspective. I'm giving you, and everything that I talked to you about today, I want you to fact check me. Meaning I want, because I'm going to make declarations. Okay, I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to tell you data, and I'm going to give you declarations, and you're not going to believe. I get it.
Oh, it takes
I did it when I wrote my book, sir. I stayed up late at night writing my book, 1 o'clock in the morning. I would pause. I would look, say a quick prayer to God, and I would say, nobody's going to believe me, God. Right. Nobody's going to believe me that what I'm writing. And that book was published right at a year ago.
Yeah, we have ticks near us. We got a creek, a house down from us. There's a nice creek, a lot of ticks on it.
Less than
Or in
11 months ago. Everything I wrote came true and then some. I couldn't even imagine that we would be at this level that we're at today because things have accelerated so quickly. Just to give your audience an idea, Yale and MIT did a study in 2018, 2019. They pushed all this demographic data into an algorithm, okay, and ran the algorithm 1 million times, came up with a mean, an average of 22 million illegal aliens inside our walls, okay, 22 million.
Yeah, Susan, Shawnee will tell you the right ointments for it because she's a naturopath. Is that what you are, Shawnee? You're a naturopath, whatever they call it?
Yeah, everyone agreed to it. I knew that number was a little bit low. I would add about another 5 to 10 million, but okay, let's play. I always like to play that game. Let's play their numbers. Yeah, 22 million. Right up to Joe Biden's term in office. From Joe Biden's term in office to the next 6 months, he has projected all the data has not stopped this increase. Joe Biden's administration will have arrested and released over 12 million illegal aliens into America. At any given time, right now, as you and I speak, 80% of the United States border is unmanned, meaning not one single law enforcement officer is on the border. That has never been done. So they claim, DHS claims, up to 3 million getaways. Those are people that cross the border undetected and abscond. Everyone in the business knows that that number is closer to 12 to 18 million. So Joe Biden's term, when he gets done, in his term, between 27 and 30 million people. Therefore, you get that 45 to 50 million illegal aliens in our country. Congressman Clay Higgins was on the Senate floor, the Congress floor, and said we have 45 million illegal aliens in the country. I know that to be true. I know that to be closer to 50, but I know it's true. And how do I know it's true besides all of my data, all my experience?
Hey, Voss, good to see you, mate.
Democrat or Rhino Republic pushback, because they know that that number is true and they do not want to engage in a discussion of how you get to that number. They just want to let it go. So I want your audience to understand, if I have 50 million people inside of our walls that are illegal aliens, Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org, just did a study and found almost 52 million foreign nationals live in America. That is 1 in 6 residents in the United States of America is an illegal alien. Now you tell me, sir.
Boss, that's not a rainbow emoji. That's a headdress of an Indian chief.
Throughout the history of the world, what civilization withstood this demographic shift and survived? And the answer is none. Zero. Ottoman Empire, Roman Empire, Greece, you go down the list, they all imploded. So we're looking at, and I want to be as very clear as I can. So, and I know that I am, but I want everyone to understand that at the beginning of this man's administration, Joe Biden, they had to have had meetings at the highest level of government to make strategic, intentional, and purposeful plans to open the borders and therefore try to destroy America. There is no other explanation.
Wow.
None. And I always ask people this because I get pushbacks from left-wing groups and rhinos. Well, you know, that's kind of crazy.
Wow, this guy's pretty full on. God bless him.
So that's crazy? Okay. 30 million people have been allowed into America at the end of this term. And I can go through the data of who is coming in. 60% to 70% are single adult military age men. Now, sir, tell me, if you don't like my conclusion, but you agree with all my data comes from DHS. So all my data is out there on cbp.gov and et cetera, DOJ. Then tell me, sir, what the hell's going on? Exactly. And no one has an explanation. No one. But my explanation is very clear. They are doing this purposely, and I need your audience to understand too that my last year in the United States Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year. So I have intimate knowledge of what he's doing, how he's doing it, why. I have contacts throughout the border, guys that are sending me pictures, videos, call me all the time. I have my thumb on the pulse. I know exactly what's happening. And we just celebrated our 100-year anniversary last month. And I want your audience to understand, not one single thing that we are doing in the Border Patrol today has ever been done in 96 and a half years. Never. In my 23-year career, excluding my 1 year with Joe Biden, to tell you how many people I arrest that cross the border illegally in 23 years, and I had about 20,000 arrests somewhere in there, directly or indirectly, and I saw equal to triple that in other people's arrests. You know how many people we released onto the streets of America? Zero. 97% of everyone that's arrested is released into America. You know why we didn't release anyone into America? Because it's against the law. It's against the Immigration Nationality Act. Illegal aliens cannot be released into America. Period. And yet we do it.
Yeah, it has to be planned. There's no other conclusion, JJ. Regardless of the propaganda that our people are being fed through the media, just to keep us dumbed down. These are facts. You're on the ground, boots on the ground, in the trench, bloodied, muddied, whatever. And it's astonishing that this could happen to our country, and you could literally break law.
It is astonishing, isn't it?
You could prosper.
Yes, and so the tip of the spear here is Alejandro Mayorkas. He's the secretary of DHS, okay? And everyone thinks Alejandro Mayorkas is this little tiny, meek, little mousy man. He's not. And I dedicate a whole chapter of my book. And in the final sentence of my book, I say that Mayorkas is a traitor, and I will not walk that back at all. And I'm not trying to sell books. The man's a traitor. And you have to understand who he is, okay? Highly intelligent, highly strategic. He was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, U.S. attorney in American history. He is also a naturalized citizen from the communist nation of Cuba. You have a naturalized citizen that was a communist nation of Cuba running our immigration system.
Wow.
He was the director of USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, under Obama. His second term under Obama became the deputy secretary, and now he's the secretary. Why is this important? Is because when you look all the way back to 2008, who was the creator of every bad immigration policy from 2008, stopgap Trump, and now? It's Alejandro Mayorkas. He created DACA, catch and release, prosecutorial discretion, abuse of parole, abuse of asylum, CPP-1 app, illegal alien flights in the middle of the night. I can go on and on and on. And the signature of all of those policies is Alejandro Mayorkas. So we have to be clear about who we're talking about. You said it before I came on, the cabal. It is a cabal. There is this is not just an American issue. This is happening in Western Europe. It's already happened. They're about 3 to 5 years ahead of us. They're devastated. They just voted in all conservative people. They're trying to right their ship.
Yeah, that's true.
But America has been accelerated beyond anything that Europe has. Why is it so important for us to destroy them, the World Economic Forum and the global elites, to destroy America? Well, as terrible as it is to say the Netherlands and Switzerland, their populations are turned upside down. It's all Middle Eastern men. Literally rape epidemics in Sweden. Sweden's fallen. The Netherlands are fallen. When they fall, does anybody really care economically? No, because it doesn't matter. But if you take the giant down to its knees, America, and you make her everything that she's not, then you can reset the world. And we are.
And that's why they got to take America down first. Once they take you guys out, they're going to come for the rest of us.
Seeing the systematic destruction of America. I mean, once we get into the numbers, sir, of who is coming within the 12 million, it's shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, they're military aged. I've seen a lot of videos. They're fit and trim, look better than some of our own military people. It's just all planned out. It's definitely been planned out, orchestrated for a long, long time. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. So go ahead and just continue on that, JJ. Man, just hit us with facts. We love it.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the 12 million that have been arrested. I'm not talking about the other 15 to 18 million that have absconded. Okay. That's a whole nother bucket of trouble. But let's just use what DHS claims through their data. Okay. And all my numbers are projected 6 months. All Biden has is 6 more months. But I'm very sure that these numbers are going. I'll probably be. I always go on the conservative side because I don't need to inflate numbers. They're so grotesque and shocking that I just report them as they are, and then I use a caveat of you got to understand you need to at least double these numbers. So let's look at the 12 million. Okay.
Yeah.
12 million. 250,000 special interest aliens will be in that 12 million group. What are special interest aliens? They are individuals that are terrorists. Okay, quite just down in the weeds, down in the dirt, brass tacks. I'm talking from low level, runners, couriers to high level ISIS recruiters and generals. Arrested and released. 250,000.
Wow.
You know how many special interest aliens I caught as a station leader and a task force operator, and thousands and thousands of arrests? Less than 5. Do you know how many I released? 0. Do you know what happened if I released 1 special interest alien, even as a senior leader? They would come down, they being Office of Inspector General, which is kind of like internal affairs on the federal level, and they would take my gun and my badge, and they would do a thorough investigation to see why you are so corrupt. What did you do? Did you take a payoff? Are you a terrorist? That's how in depth it would be. It was like the Men in Black, the movie Men in Black. That's what would come in. It's called the Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF. That's an FBI-run task force made up of Border Patrol, DHS components, on and on. So if I caught a special interest alien, I would have to call them. They would come down. They would debrief this illegal alien / terrorist, and then I would send reports all the way up to DC, all the way back down. And my whole station would kind of shut down because it was such a big deal. Like it was a big, big deal. If the Men in Black decided, okay, JG, this is a terrorist, they would take him, and I would never see him again. He would never be released. He would go to some dungeon somewhere, and they'd figure out what he knew, and then they would deport him or put him in jail and deport him. Then they would say to me, okay, JJ, I can't tell if Mohammed from Yemen is the same Mohammed, but he is a special interest alien. Go ahead and get him ready for deportation. 10-4, I got it. I'd set him up, paperwork, put him to ICE. ICE would fly him back to Yemen, and he would be gone. Okay? Right. Never in a million careers would I release that person into America. Never. We are now at 250,000 that we are claiming. I can tell you minimum another 250,000 across the border. Look, and you say, well, I want evidence. Okay. Number 1, it's in the DHS data. Number 2, just yesterday, 8, I'm going to hope I pronounce this right because they're all Kyrgyzstanians, 8 of them. Crossed the border, vetted, that's a lie. We can get into that later. Vetted, were arrested, processed, and released into America. They're special interest aliens. This is exactly what I'm telling you. They were caught in Los Angeles, New York City, and Philadelphia. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You have 250. Let me just tell you. I like to use their words, not mine. Okay? There are more red flags now than before 9/11.
Okay, Susan, good night. God bless.
Christopher Wray, 3 or 4 months ago, speaking to a sheriff's convention of 3,000 sheriffs across America. A question from a senator to Christopher Wray, the director of FBI. Sir, where are all the terrorists at? Paraphrasing. I don't know. There's so many of them. Wow. Okay. Donald Trump. 100% there will be a terrorist attack by the November election in 2024. 100%. This is, everyone knows it. And that's why everyone's scared in law enforcement, because we know. I have agents that are calling me and saying, JJ, I know for absolute, and they'll send me pictures before. Look at these pictures. There's a picture of 1,000 men sitting on our side of the border from the continent of Africa and the Middle East. And my guys are sending me pictures saying, I already processed a lot of these guys. They're stone cold killers, and I'm releasing them.
Wow.
Inside the 2 million, inside the 12 million that we arrested, there will be 210,000 Chinese nationals. I just spoke to a high-level intelligence asset, and he told me, without a shadow of a doubt, we've already acknowledged and identified 120,000 PLA soldiers out of that 210,000. 120,000 soldiers. Now, think about this. You're China, you're the Middle Eastern nations, you're Iran, Russia. There's 250,000 Russians have come into the United States of America.
Wow.
Do you take on the giant United States of America head on? No, because you know the best case scenario is mutual destruction, meaning you drop bombs on us, we drop bombs on you. It's horrible. It's terrible. Or why don't you just push your soldiers and terrorists into the United States of America? And then we'll do the most damage inside. We'll bring you to your knees. And people say, okay, well, give me an example. And I have a podcast that I share with a retired Intel analyst embedded with Special Forces, disabled veteran, incredible guy. And I told him his name's Brian O'Shea. I said, Brian, tell me what it looks like. Because in my brain, I'm looking at 120,000 PLA soldiers and terrorists. I'm thinking of brigades. He goes, no, don't think like that. Think of small groups, 10, and they're walled off. They have one mission. No one knows. They have cache of weapons. They have gun. They have money. They just have a mission. I said, okay, give me a mission. He said, okay, how about 11 o'clock today or 10 o'clock this morning? 10 PLA soldiers. They don't blow themselves up. They're soldiers. Go into LaGuardia Airport in New York with thousands of people. And with their M4s, they kill 1,000 people. Do you think that does anything to America? Instantly closes America down. And at the same time that guy is doing it, another 1,000 10-man unit are doing that. And terrorists are blowing stuff up all over. Why would Kyrgyzstanis be in LA, New York, and Philadelphia? Why would they split up after they cross together? They cross together. Why would they split up? I mean, that's an honest question. Why? Because they're taking orders and they're going to their areas where they have to detonate stuff and blow stuff up. Our government has systematically done this to us. Let me give you a quote.
Guys, we know they were doing this, but I didn't realize it was so bad. This is really bad.
Last chief of the Border Patrol, his name's Chief Rodney Scott. Incredible patriot, incredible man, would not bend a knee. He knew he was going to get fired. He was the last chief under Trump. Biden came in and there's like a 120-day policy rule. They can't fire him or move him to another position. Right. Alejandro, he's under congressional testimony, and the congressman asked Chief Scott, tell us about your first meeting with Alejandro Mayorkas. And Chief Scott, I'm almost going to quote him, said, well, my first meeting with Alejandro Mayorkas said to me, sir, I want you to open up every avenue possible to allow in as many people as possible. This is the man that is tasked with keeping our border secure, our nation sovereign, telling the #1 law enforcement officer on the border to not do his job and allow as many people in as possible. That is treason. I'll follow up with another treason. Just yesterday, Alejandro Mayorkas is on ABC, and he openly admits, I, being Alejandro Mayorkas and DHS, have created safe mobility offices, SMOs. That's Orwellian. They're called regional processing centers prior to the name change. He has them in Panama, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Costa Rica, 4 nations. He has built big facilities in order to house, clothe, feed, medicate, and prepare illegal aliens onto their journey into America, or outside of our nation, get them proper paperwork in order to fly into America and be let out into America. Our Secretary of DHS is spending tens of millions, if not billions of dollars in foreign nations to accelerate and make the flow of illegal aliens into our country more efficient. Not my words. He just said it. And no one says anything. And that's another point I want to make. This is a uniparty. This is not just a Democrat. The Democrats are evil, disgusting people. And I'm going to say that straight out right. They want abortion on demand all the way through the vaginal canal. They're brutalizing our kids. They're strip shows in front of children's drag show, story hours. Every abomination
Yep.
that has ever walked this earth, the Democrat Party cheerleads. And
wow, he's spot on.
The party that's supposed to stop them says nothing. Says nothing. And why is that? It's because they're all complicit. They're all in it. Let me give you just one great example, sir. Speaker Johnson, that little weasel, impotent man. He comes in and he says, I'm going.
Here we go. Here we'll get the truth on Mike Johnson.
To impeach Mayorkas. I'm going to shut that border down, and I'm not going to give money to foreign nations like Ukraine. Already 100 billion plus to Ukraine, has done nothing on the border, will not impeach Mayorkas. Nothing. Brings bills onto the floor that Nancy Pelosi would make her blush. Why is that? Well, because he has to be compromised. And what is the compromise all these people are on? And that's something I would like to just I want to take this conversation and I want to just go a different direction, just a little bit to try to explain. When you look at it.
See, we're up to date with everything. We already knew Mike Johnson was compromised. We said that a couple of days ago.
I means test everything that I believe, because I don't, sometimes, you know how if you're intellectually honest, you have to pull back and say, all right, are the things I'm saying factually correct? Am I saying them in an articulate way that is true and honest? And I do. I pull back and I look at what I say. I review all of my data, everything, all my experience. I reach out to people that I trust that are bluntly very honest with me, and I'm on the target. I'm not making this up. I talked to a high level, 2 or 3 high level guys on like the intel side that have access to the stuff I just don't have access to. And I said, here's my theory, and I want you to tear it apart, agree with it, whatever. I said, there's a thread that's weaving through every fabric of our society at the highest level: churches, education, media, politics, entertainment, on and on. And that thread is pedophilia. And that's where they're all compromised. And every man and woman has said, you are absolutely 100% correct. And you'll be shocked at what we know from former presidents, congressmen, and senators that are raping young children across the globe under the blanket of America. So we go back to Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson has an app on his phone where he can share his porn, what pornography he watches with his son, so they can just.
Wow, now we know. Wow.
Discuss it, and he can understand what pornography his son. So I have a 12-year-old son. He and I are not sharing a porn app. If I find him on porn, he and I are going to have a very
You're going to kick his
hard
ass.
discussion.
Exactly.
How horrible it is, how illegal, like how it warps your brain, how it's not true, it's fantasy, and on and on and on. So I have a Speaker of the House that is sharing porn openly with his son and talking about it. Are you telling me he's not compromised? Are you telling me that's the only skeleton in this man's closet? I'm a law enforcement guy. I have to ask these questions out loud because I've already witnessed the evils of the world. So I know where evil goes. Evil exists. It's walking this earth. And for you or anyone else to ignore that, or to say, well, JJ, that's absurd. No, it's not absurd. I've sat across tables. I've arrested all the pedophiles, all the gang members, all the murderers and rapists throughout my career ad nauseum. It makes me want to vomit when I think about it. But when you talk to them, it's never the surface level issues. It's a million other things they've done. And that takes me to the most disgusting thing of all my career, sir, of resting. I could rest MS-13 at 2 o'clock in the morning, get in a big brawl out fight, be bloody that guy up, get the handcuffs on him. I can arrest gang members and murderers and even rapists, people that are just raping women. And I don't care. I became so desensitized to it. I could go home at the end of shift, take a shower, get all that filth of the border off me. And the moment my head led to hit the pillow, I was out. I had no concern, no care. And I know that's terrible. I get it. I understand that that's not normal. I get it. But that's the only way I could get through my career. I couldn't get emotionally involved in these savages that I was arresting. and that law enforcement sees and arrests every day. However, every time that I arrested a child rapist, it would stay with me for days, because in my brain, the way I worked was, if I did not catch this guy, and there were times where it was a foot chase for 10, 15 seconds, and racing from the border to a taxi cab and getting them before we get a taxi cab. Or I would track this individual from the border for 2 hours and wind through the border outside of Tijuana and find them. If I didn't locate this person and I didn't make him submit to being arrested, absolute certainty, as I'm standing today, he would have raped and pillaged young children across America. Now, with that said,
I wonder if he never took no prisoners, if you know what I mean. I wonder if sometimes he took no prisoners.
is this going to be hard for people to hear? But honestly, I'll be honest, I just don't care anymore. These children that cross the border are called unaccompanied alien children. They're UACs. They range from infancy to 17 years old. Over 600,000 of them have crossed the border under Joe Biden's term. And HHS, Health and Human Services, and Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, they think of those two agencies as the federal version of CPS, Child Protective Services. Javier Becerra, under oath, just flippantly said, I don't know where these people are, these kids. It's not my responsibility. It's not under my jurisdiction, my responsibility. They have lost over 600,000 children. Try to wrap your brain around this.
Wow.
Let's say, sir, you're in Georgia, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So let's say in Georgia, little Susie gets picked up by some dude, and that dude just showed up.
Wow, Shawnee, that's heavy.
Mine. No, I don't know her name, but she's mine, and he's dragging Susie out of middle school and taking her. No ID, no vetting. There would be a manhunt, and that teacher or administrator would be fired and sued and never work in anything around children. But we are taking children. I have already spoken to people that have worked inside those facilities. We're taking children and we're releasing them to people we have no idea who they are, never to be seen again. So let me walk your audience through what it looks like when you arrest a UAC. And I want to go back in time, because I want to go back, not 30 years. I want to go 3.5 years ago when I worked under President Trump. Okay. In all of my time in the Border Patrol, and I worked down on the Tijuana border all the way to Arizona, I can't remember more than 10, maybe 15 times in my career where I either arrested or I saw unaccompanied alien children. Okay? 10 to 15 times. Let's say in my career there was 50,000 of them. Okay? That's a big number, but spread over 24, 25 years, that's nothing, right? And so we had processes in place. They had NGOs that we gave them to. They found their family members. You don't want to hold children in a facility, right? They don't need to be in a hard cell all alone for 24 hours. Nobody wants that. The Border Patrol doesn't want that. No one wants it. But it was highly regulated, highly strictly enforced. This is not just this from the Border Patrol perspective. Fast forward today. These unaccompanied alien children are coming across around 500, 600 a day, all day, constantly coming. We turn them over, Border Patrol processes them, and then turns them over to the non-governmental organizations, NGOs. The NGOs house them, and then the NGOs find them sponsors, okay? Sponsors don't have to be relatives. They don't have to be anything.
Shawnee, every day just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? It's just getting really bad.
These holding facilities, so your audience has an understanding, there are approximately 400 of these facilities have been identified across America. So they have a network system in place. 150 of them are in Texas. They range from holding tens of kids to thousands of kids. Thousands. They are paid billions of dollars. There is no one vetted. If you work for the government, HHS, ORR, Border Patrol, you're going to go through at least a year background check. criminal history, finances, everything in between. Talk to people that you know about. Everyone that knows you work with is going to be interviewed. That's just part of it. Nobody's vetted in NGOs. And I talk to my guys on the inside and say, well, who's working there? Well, criminals are working there, felons. Now, I believe felons should have opportunity to be fully integrated into America and receive all the rights back. But why do you have a large population of young people working there, felons? Well, because I need criminal activity to be done. Are they going to hire men like you and I? No, because we're going to stop it immediately. They're taking children across state lines as far away as Hawaii, flying them to, they're called escorts. So these escorts are young men and young women bringing other young men and young women and babies, getting layovers, staying in hotels together. You can just plus 2 and 2 together. There's sexual abuses happening within these detention facilities. The United States of America has become the largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. It is indisputable. I was in Texas and I saw them. Let me give your audience an idea of the massive size of it. I want you to think of the largest Walmart you have ever seen in your life. Okay, one of those mega superstore Walmarts. Yeah. Walmart has nothing to do with it. I want that to be clear. But this one NGO in Texas, in Brownsville, Texas, bought the giant Walmart center. There's 400 employees working inside that facility. It houses over 1,000 to 2,000 illegal alien children. They have shift workers that are cooks. There's teachers going in, teaching them music lessons, karate lessons, whatever you want to think. In the middle of downtown Brownsville. There's McDonald's there, there's gas stations, there's Church's Chicken. I'm in the gas station parking lot. You can't get on the parking lot of this old super mega Walmart because there's a guard shack with armed guards. The moment I get near the boundary, which is just a parking lot, pushes up to another parking lot, multiple security guards come out in their golf carts and begin surveilling me, making sure I don't step on. Congressmen and senators have tried to enter these facilities that have denied access.
Wow.
Senators and congressmen denied access. So that is right in your face downtown. Now, if you go to a place called Carrizo Springs, Texas, I want you to think of a desert in the middle of nowhere, Texas scrub brush. I would drive by the entrance to this place because it's a dirt road, unless I had someone there with me and they told me, okay, turn here. And I was like, turn here? It's a dirt gravel road. Nope, turn here. I go a half a mile and there is a gigantic FEMA camp for illegal alien children, hidden away. Carrizo Springs has less than 5,000 people live in it, and I would say that is a grotesque lie. They're counting cattle and sheep. There's no way they have 5,000 people live there. There's one gas station, and yet they hold thousands of children. Well, why is that? Why is it hidden? My source told me, that the source that worked inside these facilities said, let me tell you, JJ, there's facilities where I go in and there are cribs as far as the eye can see. And these toddlers have their heads up. And he says, they're screaming and crying. He says, quote, it's a house of horrors. I'm telling you, 600,000 children have been sexually or labor trafficked into America. And I'm telling you that at least another 400,000 to 600,000 cross the border undetected and were let go. The drug cartels run everything on the border. Everything. They're renting children. When you look at these videos, and I've seen it, I lived it in the Border Patrol, they will pump drugs into these children and then rent them to single adult males because under Joe Biden, they will not deport.
Hey, well, good to see you.
So they just release them. So when a child, they're holding a child, just go on Google if you look at videos,
thanks, Dave.
Or holding children that are absolutely almost functionally dead. And then when they cross the border, get arrested and released, then they turn the child back over to the cartels. The cartels drug it up more, sexually abuse it, and then give it like a sack of potatoes to another man. Let me give you an example of how bad this is. I'll give you 2 examples. then this is data from left-wing organizations as well as conservative organizations. It's not even debated, right? There's no argument about it. Every woman and child that comes from the Darien Gap in Panama and makes their journey up to America, 60 to 80% of every woman and child is either raped or sexually assaulted. Let me make sure you heard me correctly. Up to 8 out of 10 women and children are raped or sexually assaulted before they come into America. Let me tell you, there's a man named Tom Homan, former director of ICE under President Trump. Patriot, tells it like it is, does not care about people's feelings. I really respect him. He's given congressional testimony. I write this in my book, and he's talking about, just so your audience understands how evil, what evil, let's put a face on evil, okay? But I want your audience to understand this is times millions. Okay, this is not a one-off. This is there's rape trees where the cartels rape men's wives and children in front of them to make sure they understand that they're in charge and you're going to pay me. They rip their underwear and panties off and throw it on a tree. It's called a rape tree. Okay, it's no big deal. We've seen it a million times. Tom Homan is talking in front of Congress, and he says, "Let me tell you about a story that I just had. This experience I just had a week or two ago. I'm down in the Rio Grande, and I get called. I'm doing a ride along with the sheriff, and the sheriff says, 'Hey, let's go. We got to go to the coroner's office. They need to talk to me about a death. Nigerian mother and father and their 10-month-old Nigerian baby drowned in the Rio Grande.' So he's talking to the coroner. The coroner says the baby's cause of death is drowning. And then the coroner told Tom Homan, 'I need you to come over here, please, out of the earshot of the mom and dad.' And he says, 'I need you to understand, even though the cause of death was drowning, this little baby, her body was sexually penetrated every orifice of her little body, every orifice.' And Tom Homan said, and I quote him on my book, 'This is happening right now as we speak. It is happening all day, every day, all night, every night.' And then as they cross the border, these young children are looking at us, America, law enforcement officers, and they're begging us, 'Please, God, please take care of us.' And we don't. And right now, as you and I speak, without hesitation, thousands of children in disgusting rooms, disgusting mattresses, turning tricks 5 to 10 times a day. 5 to 10 times a day. And we do nothing. Now, I'm going to say this. I pray that God is merciful for me, okay? Because I am sinful. And I
no mercy for the child sex traffickers.
But I'm telling you, the God that I pray to, the God that I believe is real, not the hippie Jesus, not the God that's transgender, not the God that is he's just flippantly okay with everything. No, the God that is vengeful, the God that hates to be mocked, and the God that treasures his little babies. There is no way that a nation that allows God's children to be brutalized and does nothing about it, and in fact facilitates more of it, there's no way that God is not going to rain judgment on our nation. There's no way. There is no way he's not going to do it. Because this is happening all the time. And I want to stay in the realm of child sex trafficking because I want your audience to understand. I talk to other people that are, so my expertise, I believe, is broad and very narrow at the same time. But when you talk to people that are very compartmentalized in what they're studying, they have incredible deep dive. Like I can learn the Bible, I can read the Bible as much as I can, but if I go to somebody that's dedicated their whole life to it and they're like, I'm Old Testament expert. Okay, well, they're going to see things differently and more clearly and more fine than even I would, or somebody that's expert of the New Testament, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So here I am, a Bible expert, But
No
the person
way.
that knows child sex trafficking is down. They do it every day. They're grinding every day. And they tell me, well, that JJ, that's just the beginning of the atrocities and evil. They say you have to talk about the organ harvesting. You have to talk about children being sacrificed at the altar of these insane people. You have to talk about the cartels kidnapping American children, sending them back to Mexico, and then ultimately to Africa is their final destination. And then you have to listen to what our leaders say, okay? Last week, President Trump was on Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends is a very bubbly, a lot of lights and early morning, puff stories. Not this one. This one was in a hotel in Donald Trump, maybe Trump Tower. It was a little darker as his rooms are kind of dark. And they're asking him about the child sex trafficking, asking them about 137,000 children were arrested last year and released. They can't find them. 50,000.
Diane, I'd be very wary about that one, about the new news on Jesus' childhood, because that making something out of clay, that's in the Muslims' folklore. Jesus made a clay bird and breathed life into it. So that's actually a Muslim sort of story. So I'd be very careful about that one.
Across this year, they can't find them. And Donald Trump, as he's being interviewed, said to the reporter, a lot of them are already dead. And the reporter didn't hear it because she talked over him. And then Trump let her finish and paused, and he says, again, a lot of them are already dead. Of course, they did no follow-up because that's our media, even Fox. No follow-up. First question should have been, sir, I need to know what's the quantitative a lot, and then who are killing them? And we know the answer to that. Are the children crossing the border and having heart attacks at 5 years old and dying? Or are they being raped to death? Or are they being organ harvested? Or are they being child sacrificed? So here's Donald Trump. You think, look, you can say a lot about Donald Trump. I'm a big MAGA guy. I believe we're the answer. We, the people, are the answer, but he is the shield to stop a lot of this criminality. I believe that. Donald Trump's not going to just say things like that.
And you got to admit, guys, Trump did do a lot about child sex trafficking when he was president.
He's just not going to say it. Why is he saying it, sir? And when you listen to other people that are like high-level tier 1 operators, CIA, former CIA, special forces that dedicate their lives to finding, locating, and rescuing children are telling me this is at the highest level, dude. The highest level of your government. Let me give you another quote. General Flynn, the great General Flynn. I have great respect for him, but at the same time, if I ever had a chance to interview him, I'd ask him some very hard questions. Sure. Over the summer, he was interviewed on a fairly large podcast. And I watched it, and I literally was screaming at my computer like, okay, you just said this out loud. Hold on a second. Time out. He said, all of our upper echelon politicians are compromised. He says, I know for certainty that there's congressmen and senators that fly overseas under the blanket of the United States of America, the flag, and are having sex with minors. Okay, number one, there is no such thing as having sex with minors. That's called raping children. Number two, hold on a second. You were the head intel agency guy. I want to know who the hell this is. And then how many times? How long has it been going on? Why are you silent, sir? But you listen to multiple people tell you the same thing. And then you see the actions. So when our government tells you they're going to do something and their actions follow up, and then you deny that evil is happening, well, that's on you. And I can't help you. I can talk to you blue in the face, but I'm not going to. I have X amount of breaths left in this life, and I'm not going to waste it on people that are willfully ignorant or part of the problem. Not going to do it. We're talking about PhD level stuff. I'm not going down to middle school and try to teach you basic math and arithmetic. Not going to do it. Okay? We're talking about algebra, trigonomics up here. And the problem is people don't want to know. People don't want to hear the stories that Tom Homan said. They don't want to hear stories of a woman that I just interviewed yesterday said one of the things they do to children too is because they want these children, because a lot of people have sexual fetishes. And a lot of people like to have sex with children with no arms and legs.
What?
So they remove their limbs. And they sexually abuse their children. And they just throw them away. I know that. I know your art. No, I know nobody I don't like this. I get no, to me, it's almost 9 o'clock in the morning. You think I want to be speaking about this evil crap at 9 o'clock in the morning? No. I got a son. I want to go play with my son. I'm flying to Boston and New York City and Philadelphia this week for 4 days. Talk about child sex trafficking, the drug epidemic that we haven't even discussed yet. I have to go I want to be with my son. I don't want to, and my wife, I don't want to be talking about this evil. But I do know this, sir, that when I pray to God that I get to stand before God and be judged,
with a
He's
clean
not going to say
slate.
to me, well, you were silent. Why were you silent? I built you this way. I put you in the border for 24 years. I gave you access to all of these media. And you could have wrote a book. You could have did a documentary. But you shut your mouth. I'm casting you into hell because you were a coward.
He's right.
I'm not a coward. That's the same thing I say to the preachers. Why are you a coward? Why are you not preaching about what's in the Bible? You don't get to pick and choose what's in the Bible. You just tell it as, you're not condemning people. You're just saying, this is what the rules are, and you must follow them. To your flock, our nation is child sex trafficking. Under the blanket of God, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Family Services, Jewish Family Services, the NGOs, they are the wicked, evil part of the federal government. This has to be discussed. Sir, you and I have been talking for almost an hour. We just got the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg. I'm doing a documentary called What is Treason, but you can look at it, thisistreason.com, and you can look at, we post videos on this as a journey. And I have to tell you, somebody that did this for 24 years, I took a year off where I moved my family out of California. We went to South Dakota, beautiful state, and I refused to talk about it. I could not discuss it. I didn't want to watch anything on the news because it's all lies and misstatements. And I told my friends that called me, don't talk to me. I want to hear about your family and your kids. Let's laugh about.
G'day, Dan. Good to see you, mate.
About what's happening. I can't do it. And then God pulled me back in after a year of reprieve, if you will, and re-energized me. And with the well-being of my wife, I wrote a book. Then I did a documentary. It's going to be out in September. Why I'm talking about the documentary is I want you to understand. I was in the belly of the beast for 24 years. I know exactly the policies that the Mayorkas is ignoring, bastardized, and the laws he's just criminal negligence and not doing. I understand all that. I understand the NGOs. I understand the child sex trafficking. I understand the narcotic side. I started this journey, if you will, of doing this documentary about in May. So what, 2 months, 2.5, April, May. Every time I fly away from what I just filmed and documented, I sit on the plane and I think, dear God, what did I just see? What was told to me? How am I going to articulate this to America? Because as big as I thought it was, it's bigger. As bad as I thought it was, it's worse. It's on an industrial size. It's a military operation. And it is entrenched into our government. At the end of Joe Biden's term, his numbers, not mine, he will have spent over $700 billion with a B on illegal aliens. People that are in the business know that it has already surpassed 1 trillion. That is a trillion in 4 years.
As you got homeless
We could have
everywhere.
repaved every road and highway in the United States of America. We could have rebuilt all of our hospitals for $1 trillion, but we gave them to foreign nationals. This is a sin on America. And why is it a sin on America? Is because our founding fathers created a government that we are the government. So if you're going to try to parse your words with God and say, well, you know, I'm just somebody, I can't say anything. Well, yes, you can. You, at the very base of your life, you can become educated no matter how hard it is to digest. Become educated on something, and be an advocate for that. School choice, private schools, school vouchers, the end of transgender surgeries, whatever it is. But to be an American and not be in this fight, you are become the enemy. It's that simple. And if you think you're going to be unscathed, look through history. The people that sit it out are the first persons that are killed, raped, and injured, because you're the low-hanging fruit. You're the nobody. You're the person that's not engaged and no one fears, and you're taken out by both sides. So get engaged. You have a moral obligation, I believe.
100%. I've always told people, like with missions, if you can't go, you know, send your money. And there's people on the front lines like yourself that are doing it, and we're all going to be accountable for what we're doing. I'm looking at the time. We could do this for hours, JJ. But I know I'm going to respect your time, and you got a busy schedule. We got to get back together, man. When you get back from Boston and I think New York, is that what it is?
Yes, New York, Boston, and Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I'm going into we haven't talked about the drugs, so I'm going into the drug den of Philadelphia. It's called Kensington neighborhood. That's where all you see the videos of the zombies. So those zombies are all across America. 100% of all the narcotics in Philadelphia, per Sarah Carter, the investigative journalist, and through the narcotics units in Philadelphia, almost 100% come from Sinaloa drug cartel in Mexico. Philadelphia is over 2,000 miles away. If you think your little town tucked away in Mayberry is going to be unaffected, you're absolutely out of your mind. The narcotics are flowing in the drug cartels own every inch of America, and our government allows it. America's being destroyed. So I would love to come back and speak with you again. I know this is a very heavy topic. I know it's a topic that is very layered, and it takes time to unravel it, if you will, because it is so layered and complex. And it's that way because they want it that way. But the solutions are very simple. It just takes men and women with courage, conviction, and some moral standing to demand it and take action. So I appreciate you having me on and speaking to your audience. And again, I know it's a very uncomfortable topic, but I feel compelled to share it and make sure people are aware of what's happening and I'm telling you, you think you're immune from it in Georgia? I know that there's drop houses in Georgia, drugs and kids. You think you're not going to get hurt? Then look at Laken Riley. Get her head, her skull disfigured. If we would have had a border, if we would have deported that man, she would still be alive today. And what is the ripple effect of her life, not getting married, not having children, her children not having children, her grandchildren not having children? Is there somebody in that lineage that could have changed the course of America or the world, cured cancer, done something, or just been an amazing mother or father? So you wiped out generations of greatness because we are gutless and impotent. And I blame it. And sir, I'll leave you on this. I blame everything that's happened in America on the American man. Everything. Because we sat by, we're supposed to protect our wives and our children, and we did nothing. We sat there because
Shawnee, 2 months ago, he was screaming for Biden's impeachment. Now he's not even bringing it up. He's being compromised.
We didn't want to be called vile names by the LGBTQ, all the politicians, even our own clergymen. We sat by and we allowed this to happen to America because we were cowards as a group of men. And the only people that are going to take this back are the men. God created us this way to protect our families, but we have failed miserably at protecting our families. And it is up to us to take it back. Now, the question is, will we have the courage to do it? And I'll be very honest. I don't know. I know I do, but I don't know. My neighbors do. I don't.
Amen, Vast.
Yeah, that's why we have people like you on, JJ, that have the courage. You know, a vast majority of this audience are veterans, great people that patriots. They love God, and yeah, I blame it on the man. And the Bible is very, very explicit when it says that all cowards should be thrown into the lake of fire. And I'm not a coward either. And I've served my nation, and I'm going to continue to serve it by having guests on like you and supporting you. My synapses are firing. I have so many questions to hit you with, brother, but I'm gonna respect your time. You know, to me, it's almost like it's either revival or riot. I mean, we're either at the point of civil war. Obviously, legislation is not going to make it happen. These guys are all sold out. It's just too much to open back this can. But man, I just want everybody to know, please go to jjcarroll.com. jjcarroll.com. That's CARRELL.
Yes, sir.
.com, and check out his information there.
Yeah.
This is treason.com.
Yes, sir. You can pre-order there. Yes, you can pre-order the video and do that. I would appreciate, because the pre-order allows, we're self-funded. I wouldn't let anybody touch this documentary, because Netflix, etc., because I don't want them to shelve it or put constraints on me. So me and production company are doing this on our own, and by pre-ordering, it helps us fund the next month. We have 2 more months of filming and editing, then it'll be out. It will be powerful.
Yeah, I'll be ordering mine here shortly. Also, can we support? Can those that are watching you, is there a way to support you? Got a PayPal, anything going on your website?
No, I don't. You can support me by purchasing my book, Invaded, on Amazon. It's been an 8-time bestseller. Or if I really would, if anything you could do is pre-order and get the word out on the documentary. I think that is going to have the most profound impact. It is, if I just have 1 minute of your time, I'll talk about the documentary. The editors that I have and the production crew, the gentleman that's running, his name's Ryan Matta. He has studied documentaries for years, and he and I, that's why I partner with him. This is not going to be your run-of-the-mill documentary where after 8 minutes you're falling asleep. This is what I hope, and I do know, I've already seen his work. I've already seen his work up to date. We're halfway through filming, so I've seen like the beginning of it. Our goal is, after 90 minutes, that you have not taken a breath, and then you exhale. And then the second thing I want you to do is I want you to deny everything that I said and everything you saw. And the third thing I want you to do is to fact check me and see if I'm right. And then you're going to be shocked when you see, dear God, I can't believe this is true. And then I want you to spread it to your friends. So if anything you could do, pre-order and then just spread the word. Hey, go to this website, check it out. We have about 9 videos on it now, where we do edited, real nice, clean, edited of what we experienced. So you can actually traverse this journey with us and kind of see what the theme of the story is going to be. And it's about treason. It's about me taking you on a journey. I'm taking the camera, if you will, and I'm turning it from the south and I'm turning it north to the major cities in America, in small towns. And I'm saying, look, this is what an open border looks like. Prostitution, drugs, child rape, child sex trafficking, people losing their jobs, people being brutalized in the streets, politicians ignoring you and just giving money to illegals.
I reckon it'd be a really good read, Bast.
For example, Chicago, over $3 billion for Chicago. They're about to have a race war between black residents and Venezuelans. Not my words, the people I interviewed. You'll see it on the interviews that we post on thististreason.com. It's bigger than what I thought. It's more evil than what I thought. And it's the hardest thing, I'll leave you with this, it's the hardest thing for Americans to understand or to digest, because we are all about the greatness of America. God had a providential hand in the development of our country. But the people that run your country now hate it. Not my words, theirs. They want to fundamentally transform America through endless waves of immigration, and they need illegal aliens to take our jobs. Those 3 quotes that I just gave you are from President Obama, Vice President Biden, and Chuck Schumer, the 3 leading Democrats. They're quotes. So listen to what our leaders are saying to us and look at their actions. Understand that we are under attack on all angles. Thank you for your time, sir. I appreciate it. And I will come back whenever you'd like. We can dive further into this.
Yeah, we will, JJ, we will. Let me ask you this. I want to put you on the spot with everybody here. I'd like to sponsor the documentary on Rumble. In other words, I'd like to put the trailer up there, and because of this current platform we're on, we'll probably not.
Okay.
With a MEPACS monitored personal alarm, our 24/7 team of local professionals are always here if you need help.
Hi, it's Gail from MEPACS. Do you need help?
You're in safe hands with MEPACS.
To start here, check this out. This is kind of interesting. Most central bank gold buying is unreported, apparently. Not exactly telling you that they're buying up gold and that there's significantly higher gold prices coming.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then we also have billionaire real estate investor Barry Sternlicht says he expects at least one bank failure per week. And actually, he misspoke at first, saying there'd be one bank failure per day due to real estate loans. That's a fragile animal right now. So this guy actually on the interview said there'll be one a day soon. And then he goes, well, I mean one a week. And then he goes, well, maybe two a week. And there's another expert, a real estate CEO, that came out and said there's going to be about 500 bank failures in the next 2 years. And if you calculate that out, that's almost one a day. So it could easily be, in the end, one a day. It might end up being like, all at once, like 50 in one day or something. And then there's like one a week after that or something. But clearly we're seeing some things happening here, folks. And this could be why they're buying up gold and not reporting it. We're seeing GOVs all across the board buying up gold like there's no tomorrow. And they tell you, no, you don't need gold. Gold is not worth anything. Who cares? You got your dollar bills there. They're made out of paper. They're really good for lighting.
I gotta feel good night, mate. God bless.
That's what it'll be good for when it's worth, of course, nothing. You can light up a fire, folks, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, indeed, folks. So you might want to get yourself some gold and silver. Link below if you haven't already, folks. They have some deals going on, 16 hours left. And they're saying that gold and silver prices are going to go way up because of what they're doing. They're buying this and not reporting it. So definitely want to check that out. Let's get into a number of stories here. We have tons of companies going out of business. Bankruptcies are spiking as companies lose hope of rate cuts. So they were told, we're going to do rate cuts. The Fed is going to do rate cuts. I already knew they weren't going to, or highly unlikely they're going to do any, even in the next year, because of the graphs. The graphs show it basically going sideways. So most likely, if it does have a rate cut, then it'll have an increase. So it's basically going to be neutral for about a year and a half. Then if it follows a graph like we've been talking about and speculating, which is basically if you compare 1966 to 2013 and you go forward, it all matches perfectly on inflation. And it shows that there's going to be 8 years more of inflation and it's going to go way higher. And that's assuming that you just continue in the same direction they're going. So these companies were hoping for a rate cut, which didn't happen. So now they're literally just going out of business. April saw the highest number of corporate bankruptcies in a year. Eroding bets of interest rate cut contribute to this as burdened businesses throw in the towel. Inflationary data points in April coincide with the jump in junk rated yields. So you're seeing all these companies barely hanging on, hoping for something to change, right? So we're seeing that. And of course, to see what is going on the personal level, looking at what's going on in Florida, folks, you're not going to believe this. Check this out. This is ridiculous. Florida homeowners insurance, $1,000 a month. This is not the mortgage. This is the insurance. $1,000 a month. If you calculate it out, basically it's almost $12,000 a year. Divided by 12 is about $1,000 a month. A lot of other states are actually much, much lower than Florida. I saw some really ridiculous things going on in Florida with regards to HOA, homeowners association, coming up and asking for $20,000 from people that have condos and stuff. Just $20,000 payment, no big deal. Just give us $20,000. I don't know if you guys got $20,000 laying around. There's actually many people this is happening to. There's even a YouTuber named John Williams here on YouTube that had that happen to him. They asked him for $20,000, and there's a lady here that was asked for $22,000. Where was that at? I have so many windows up, and I think it's over. I don't know where it is. I got so many things open. At any rate, if I find it later, I'll show it to you. But yeah, so there was a lot of stories like this going on right now, and you're not going to believe how much it costs to just simply live comfortably in America these days. Income of a family of 4 to live comfortably in every U.S. state. You're not going to believe these numbers. Check this out. Number 1, most expensive, $300,000 a year in Massachusetts. Hawaii, $294,000 just to live comfortably with a family of 4. So you're seeing the prices are just, and I think the story is assuming you don't own a house or a car and you have to buy it right now. Like, let's say you have a family of 4 and you got to go buy everything. Because of course, if you already have a house, like for instance, my house here, I think it costs 2.5 times more a month if I bought it right now. So like literally I'd be spending 250% more a month if I had to buy it today, the same exact house. So I think they're referring to something like that type of scenario. That's why it would cost you $300,000 just to be able to live comfortably, meaning like you have a house, a car, some food, you know what I mean? Like paying for medical expenses, stuff like that. It's getting ridiculous, folks. It's getting ridiculous. And then we're going to get over to, like I said, a number of things. We're going to talk about what's going on with Tyson Foods. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure you guys heard about some of this. Tyson Foods wanting to hire, I'm sure you already heard about that, the not so legals, 40,000, right? Well, there's so much more they've been doing, folks. It's not ending. There's like so many of these stories coming out about Tyson Foods now. Tyson Foods dumps millions of pounds of, we're calling them pollutants, into, U.S. rivers and lakes. Very interesting. You remember the trains, right? All those trains that were derailing happen to just land in the rivers often, or lakes, you know what I mean? Not lakes, but rivers and stuff like that. Or in the middle of a city, or just that's where it happens, right? Now we have companies just simply dumping, folks. Absolutely ridiculous. They have a water lagoon right here. This is stuff they would do back in the 1960s. This is in the Missouri River. I worked at a company called Potluck.
So you remember I played a video, and the video said, the guy said that in the Bible it says, turn away from God and I'll make you a nation of vagabonds. And vagabonds means homeless. And it was just an interesting pickup. I remember watching that about a month ago.
That's like, was that like 15, 20 years ago? I think it was 20 years ago, actually, now. 20 plus years ago, like 22 years ago. And they were talking about that they used
Hey, Johnny, good night. God bless.
And then they stopped doing stuff like this. So for this company to be doing stuff like this in 2024 is absolutely ridiculous, to be dumping millions of pounds of this stuff into our rivers and lakes. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's no excuse whatsoever at this point. So you got Tyson Foods doing that. They closed down 8 plants, fired a ton of American workers, and then they're talking about getting the not so legals. You know what I mean by not so legals, right? Or do I have to explain that? Those that are, of course, are not, legal, that are, of course, here. Okay? I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say the word, but they're talking about potentially hiring that many. They haven't, went forward with it, probably because of all the, bad response from everyone hearing about it. But Then we have this. This is also from Tyson Foods. Chicken farmers stuck with uncertainty. Massive loans in the wake of Tyson Food closures. They closed 8 plants, 8 meatpacking plants total. And these farmers are getting stuck with the bill, having these massive loans and not having anything. Where do I send all these chickens now? Right? So they have problems in that respect. And then you have, like I said, you have 8 meatpacking plants closed.
It's glaring, guys. Hang on.
And now they're suffering from the worst day ever for them. I think in the stock market, Tyson Food shares, suffer worst one-day decline in a year. Actually, in a year over demand concerns because they're not making any money because people are now apparently not wanting to buy Tyson Foods. I wonder why. Could be all the stuff that they're doing, all this news coming out about what they've been doing. Now people don't want to buy it. So Tyson Foods is losing money as a result of it, like we've seen with a lot of these other companies in the past that have done things like this or have done things that people are not happy with, right? So we got that going on. Now check this out. This is another story that's absolutely ridiculous. We're seeing a number of things.
And Vars, when you think about it, that's another prophecy coming true. A land of vagabonds when you turn away from God. 171,000 homeless in California. That's astronomical. I can't imagine them numbers. On the streets.
Cost of electricity going up 30%.
Yeah, we got that.
30%. 50% more than overall inflation, rising 13 times faster than the previous 7 years. According to the Wall Street Journal, analysts of Bureau.
And over here, they're shutting down all the coal plants so the electricity goes to wind. And it's not going to be, they won't be able to develop the infrastructure to cover taking the coal mines off, the coal electricity things off. Didn't make sense.
Labor statistics data. So you're seeing your electricity prices up 30%. And now California, I don't know what's going on with California, man. I keep seeing stories about California making everything super expensive there. We talked about the restaurants, $20 hour minimum wage. And then they have this new law that passed and made it even higher price. Now they're doing it with the electricity. So not only your food, but everything going up in price in California, left and right here, folks. And your bills are a sweeping change in the way most Californians will pay for their electricity. They're actually passed a bill that gives the electric utility company more money. Pacific Gas and Electric had asked the Utilities Commission 3 months before a transformation of electric rates so that households would pay a fixed charge each month in exchange for lower rates for kilowatt hour. So what they did is all those that are barely not using a ton of electricity will end up having a higher bill every month with this minimum price bill. And then all those that use too much electricity will actually have a cheaper bill now. You see how that works? Unbelievable. So in the end, they're making tons more money. And of course, the governor went for it. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. He keeps doing things.
And Darren, to see scripture play out in our lifetime, that's really amazing. We are the last generation.
More and more expensive. So the electricity prices have went way up.
Yep, same.
And now they're going up even on top of that, more so in California because of that. And there was some other story about it as well. At any rate, there's a lot of stuff going on in that realm where just electricity prices are going up all across the board. And there's a lot of other things as well. Credit card delinquency rates are up as well. Worst on record. But here's the thing. Here's the kicker. It's only 3.5% that are 30 days past due. Now, here's the thing that people don't understand. This is pretty much nothing compared to what your employer is going through right now. So 47% of Americans are working for a small business. They're employed by small businesses. And 43% of small businesses are 30 days late on their rent, meaning they're having to decide between paying the rent and paying you. 50% of America. That is like probably the worst of all the statistics compared to something like this. This sounds really bad, worst ever credit card delinquency rates, but this is pretty much nothing compared to your employer not being able to pay you soon here. See what I mean? So this is what a lot of people are not understanding. So that's going on right now as well. They're talking about we're entering into stagflation where basically everything is really expensive, but people are not making any more money. It's a form of inflation that's even worse. Goldman Sachs sees ghosts of stagflation, warns of tight times ahead.
Yeah, you can still withdraw,
Seen a depression in the past.
So far, Bart, it's only a couple of the minor banks that have gone cashless. The big four banks, nothing's changed yet.
So these are some of the stories that are coming out right now. It makes you really kind of wonder. We're going to get into actually a ton more stuff. I'm going to talk about what's going on in some of these cities and much more. As we get farther into this video, I've got to show you some other really important things as well. First of all, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 4 weeks worth for $187. You haven't got this, folks. You might want to get this now. Considering the end of this year, you remember what happened last time? A mostly, of course, peaceful type of marching. Oh my goodness. I'm sure we're going to see some of that in our cities again, folks. Just mostly, peaceful. Super peaceful, of course. But probably way more this time. I'm thinking it's going to be way more. Like times it by 5. What we saw last time, times by 5. You're going to be seeing that September, October, November, I'm thinking. You might not be able to get out of your house. You may not want to get out of your house. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen. Honestly. Okay. So you might want to get this stuff just in case. Link is in the description, $187 for 4 weeks worth. This book here, The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity. And some I do things around the house like that in the old days. Hundreds of pages illustrated. You definitely want to get the printed version. It's like $37 for shipping. Link is in the description. Check that out as well. Gold and silver's link below. You're gonna definitely want to get this book. Tons of great comments. Every comment I've ever seen about this book is positive, and lots of thumbs up behind it as well. Which I'm not. They're just there. People are putting it out. They must have loved the book. It's
Diane. Remember I told you about that dream? I told everyone here about that dream. I had the UFO morphin, and it was really beautiful purple. Yeah, it was hypnotizing. It was so beautiful. The color purple was so deep.
Very good.
And it sounds like that UFO that guy's talking about, the link you posted. Oh, wrong way.
Go check it out, folks. Link is in the description. Now, of course, we're seeing these bankruptcies pile up. And honestly, it has gotten really ridiculous. I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos, but the trucking industry is just, my goodness, it's cratering right now.
Partner with us to have global business consultants help you confidently face the future.
At Officeworks, you can find storage for anything and everything digital, like the new Lacey Portable Mobile and...
And I would say the trucking is probably one of the worst, because we had so many companies recently go out of business, Chapter 7 bankruptcies left and right.
Our problem with truckers here is we can't find any drivers. No one wants to be a trucker anymore.
Lots of them. Also, just closing locations, things of that nature. It's not looking good for the trucking industry. I don't actually have any pulled up. I talked about that in the previous video, but it's ridiculous right now. There's like lots of bad things going on in the trucking industry right now, and also shipping. We also have a ton of mall stores going out of business. Route 21. I can't remember them all. There's like so many of them. There's like at least 3 of them that recently went out of business.
Oh, man.
And there's several of them closing tons of locations. Route 21 is one of them that completely.
No, I can't watch them. They make me cry. They really do.
We look close shop. I'm trying to remember what the other one's on the top of my head. I just can't remember his name for some reason. But there's a lot of them. Okay. We had also a dollar store. Some of the dollar stores are going completely under. And I'm curious. I'm curious about Family Dollar if it's going to be around. They've already closed 600 locations. They only got like 2,000. So, and some of these, like they would do an update. Like what was it? Rite Aid. Rite Aid said, "Oh, we're only going to close 70 locations." Now they're closing 500, and they also have only a few thousand locations. And so you get these updates, like, "Oh no, we're going to close 1,000 locations out," right? So we don't know how many of these are going to be around these dollar stores. And Target's already looking to replace dollar stores. They're actually going to make a section that's going to have dollar items or cheaper items, I guess you'd say. Then we have this here, folks. Check this out. Percentage of U.S. mortgages considered seriously underwater rises. Apparently, it's gone up quite a bit, folks. So there's a lot of mortgages that are seriously underwater. And then on top of that, very few with equity-rich mortgages, which means that they've actually taken a lot of the value out of their home. So we're seeing that story. Then we have, of course, this is what I was talking about earlier, and I couldn't find it at first. This lady from Florida, young Florida condo owner, fears she'll lose her home after exorbitant HOA, Homeowners Association fee hike. And she's not alone. And again, I mentioned there's a guy here on YouTube who lives in Florida, and he got the exact same thing happen to him. So this must be pretty common. I mean, YouTubers having it happen to them. I mean, there's not like bazillions of YouTubers, so it shouldn't be that common where you'd have even a YouTuber getting it. Young Florida woman is afraid she's going to have to sell her home after her cash-strapped condo association proposed a one-off fee for unit owners of up to $22,000 to fill its reserve coffers. And again, it happened to John Williams here on YouTube. His channel, This is John Williams. He mentioned it recently. They actually asked him for $20,000. Orlando-based Brittany here on TikTok said that she had to share her horrific HOA, Homeowners Association fee plight. So basically, it's gotten ridiculous, folks. You're seeing stuff like this in Florida. $1,000 just for insurance a month. Homeowners associations, for some reason, wanting ridiculously huge payments in some places. And I think it has something to do with like upgrades to the condos. They want to. I'm not quite sure how it all works, but it has a lot to do with condos and these ridiculous HOAs asking for insane amounts of money. I know condos are a little bit different than homes. I'm not sure why they're asking for so much, but this is ridiculous. Yeah, I got just $20K laying right here. Here's $20K. There you go. I mean, like people just got $20K just laying around in their house, right? Yeah, okay. So you can see that obviously something's going on with real estate. You have this one guy here, this company lost their property, lost it for a massive amount of money. Pinnacle Bank buys back Fort Worth office tower for $12 per square foot. It was originally like $140 per square foot. So this company spent like $140 per square foot to buy it, and ends up losing it because they couldn't pay for it. And the bank got it for pennies on the dollar. They bought it for $12.3 million. The company originally bought it for $137.5 million in 2021. So you're seeing this, and this is what's going to lead into these banks going under, is because of stuff like this right here. I've seen entire like buildings like this get demolished because there's no value in them anymore, like zero value, and these loans are still out there. Wow. So these loans are basically worthless now. No one's going to pay it, right? So they just give it back to the bank. And this is what's going to cause what this real estate CEO was talking about back here.
Geez, by the sounds of that, there's no way around it. It's going to collapse.
Where'd it go, man?
Come in.
Yeah, here it is. This billionaire real estate investor. This guy was saying you're going to probably see one bank a week fail soon here. And he actually accidentally said one bank a day. And they said, well, maybe two banks a week. So you're going to be seeing a huge amount of banks going under in the next month or two. It sounds like it's going to start doing this. And then it's just going to be all the time, like a ton of them. This is what these guys are saying. These are investors, real estate CEOs. These guys are saying this stuff. Not me. I'm not saying it. These guys are all in the business to know.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you think about it, it makes you wonder about these banks. If there's so many people, is your money, should you keep it there?
Yeah, Diane, that's another catch-22 for them, isn't it?
Of course, these are not the biggest banks. These are more ones that are focused on real estate. This isn't like, Wells Fargo. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it might be Wells Fargo. This is not like Chase or Bank of America. Okay. I don't know exactly which banks got these, but a lot of these banks have more real estate than you think. Like even Chase and some of these big behemoth ones have a ton of real estate loans. Not as much as the smaller ones, but they have a lot. I think even in the 20% range. Chase real estate loan exposure. I don't know.
Yep, they have
20%? No, it's only 12.6. Okay, for Chase it's 12.6. But there's a couple of these big ones.
And Darren, it's about to collapse.
So they could just wipe out this 12.6. They'll still be around. But some of these banks have like 50%. That's taking you under, right? I'm not sure about Bank of America. I didn't spell it right. Bank of America. How much commercial real estate exposure does Bank of America have? 76 billion out of 3.2 trillion. Oh, that's not that big. That's actually that's even smaller than Chase, it looks like. I'll see. No, Wells Fargo has about almost 10%. Bancorp almost has 10%. So Citigroup and Bank of America look like they're okay. Chase has a big exposure here. Is that there's some weird thing going on with Chase recently as well. Oh, that's kind of weird. 12.6%. Didn't the CEO someone with the CEO recently? Chase CEO. I can't remember. At any rate, you get the idea. Obviously, it's Jamie Dimon. I know that. I'm just wondering. There's some news recently. Oh, this is weird. Oh, okay. He had surgery or something. He says some rather strange things sometimes. And there was something he recently said that made me wonder. But yeah, here we go. Warns of inflation and economic challenges ahead. That was 3 days ago. That might have been what I was thinking of. At any rate, I think that's kind of my video. There's actually some other stuff I could show you, but oh yeah, I could show you this. Oh, there's actually a couple other things I could show you. Yeah, I should show this stuff to you guys. Okay, for one, there's actually some stuff I can show you real quick. I'll try to run through this. Obviously, you know about the 1,300 stores closing. Quite a few. I just mentioned Family Dollar. Oh, yeah, 600. I said that earlier. Yeah, I was right. 600. 600 stores. And CVS, I think it's even higher than this now. I think it might be 500 now. I can't remember. Foot Locker, 113. So this is a little bit old. I think this is like a month old. Rite Aid's already 500. This is old. This is wrong. So some of these numbers have already changed and got bigger. So you see that. You understand what's going on there. Then you got this. This is ridiculous. This is the not so legals I was talking about earlier with Tyson Foods. So they got a list of demands now, apparently.
Good night, Ryan.
Food cooked
God
fresh,
bless.
culturally appropriate ingredients, shower access, regular visits for medical whatever. These guys are what? Like what? Are we talking about?
Guys, I'm going to switch with prophecy with Stan to finish off with, like I usually do.
Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is dollar death, birth of the yuan, specifically birth of the petro yuan, and specifically death of the petrodollar. Now, what does that mean? It means that all of us is about to lose a lot of our wealth. We're also going to talk about Israel and the war. Now, what am I talking about? Let me just take just a second. Let me talk to you as if I was talking to one of my good friends. In other words, let's say you and I are alone in my house and we're just talking. And let's say you're a friend of mine, a prophecy student, and you turn to me and you say, Stan, what do you see? So I'm not making any notes. As you can see the notes that I'm talking off of, I'm just talking from the heart. Okay, I can't prove it, but I believe that Leslie's prophecies, many of them, are about to come to pass this year. Now, if it doesn't happen this year, don't call me a prophet or a false prophet, because God has not told me. I cannot say that He's definitely said that they're going to come to pass this year. I feel in here it's going to happen, but I can't say thus saith the Lord. I think that her prophecies probably are about to come to pass. Okay, I'm just telling you, I'm just talking to you. You're like a friend, okay, here. I'm not making any big predictions. I also think that the prophecies we're about to see is probably going to be Omer ushers in Palestinian state. However you spell that, she only heard it. I think that it may not necessarily come to pass during the 49 days of the counting of the Omer, as I'm about to explain again. It may come to pass shortly after. I also think that the death of the petrodollar that happened as of yesterday, I'm making this recording Monday morning at 11:27 a.m., when Saudi Arabia stopped requiring the dollar for their crude oil, as Shane Warren was told, it's going to cause the dollar to start to fall. Now, how fast it falls, I don't know. But probably, again, I'm giving you my opinion, probably as early as the next couple of weeks, and on the outside, the next 2.
Diane, it's a white elephant now, isn't it? That big building, there's no business that could fill that up. Chrysler is a big company as it was.
And the prophecies say the devaluation comes immediately, overnight. There's no warning. All of a sudden, the dollar is devalued by 30%. Now, I don't know how that works. It may be that, say you have $1,000 in your account, but now all of a sudden you have $700 the next morning. Those kind of deals. I don't know. But the petro-yuan rising means that God is raising up China, just like Dmitry was told. Remember, God will raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations that will go against the Russians and defeat the Russians. I also think that shortly after we split Israel, just like God said, 12 different times, 12 different people, He'll split America. Shortly after that,
that won't take long for the dollar to fall then, Vas, will it?
According to Shane Warren, there'll be a wealth transfer to the church. And God is going to cause the church to rise up with healing in her wings. And the people, as Shane Warren and others have been told, they'll have to return to the church for food, for shelter, for protection, because the government won't be able to help them. The government's about to be broke. That's the reason you see give us entitlements. In other words, food stamps, things like that, going to be stopped. The end miracles start. So my guess, if you're asking me what my guess is we'll see Israel split, earthquake, wealth transfer to the church, miracles all before the end of 2024. That's saying something, because there's only 6 months left in this year. In other words, I think the next 6 months are going to be prophecy fulfillments like we've never seen. In my 30 years of being full-time in the prophecy ministry, I've never seen the prophecies fulfilled like we're about to see. I also think that the Dems and the Christians are at war. There is a spiritual war in America right now like we've never seen.
I agree with that.
The Dems have said in their heart there is no way under the sun that Trump is getting in. Absolutely, positively, we will shed blood before we let Trump in. But I think this trial in New York has angered Christians. It's awakened a sleeping giant. Christians tend to be sleepy. They tend to be, let's just go have a good time, slap each other on the back and go get lunch, okay? But this has awakened a sleeping giant of Christians in America, like, again, we've never seen. And I think Christians are saying, we're going to put Trump in or there will be blood. And what does that mean? I think that before the end of the year, there's going to be blood in America. It's going to be the Dems against the Christians. It's going to be the Satanists against the Christians, the communists against the capitalists, however you want to measure it up, the left against the right. And there's going to be an internal revolution. Stan, are you prophesying there's going to be an internal revolution before the end of 2024? No, I can't prophesy that. God has not told me that. You asked me my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. I'm not saying thus saith the Lord. I'm just talking, okay? Can a person not just have a conversation without always having to be, thus saith the Lord? Well, you said, no, I'm not saying, okay? We're friends. I'm just giving you my opinion. I think that there's a high probability before the end of the year, we're going to see American bloodshed over the election. I think that there's a high probability we will see the internal revolution this year. I don't know of anything else.
Never heard that before, pre-flood.
I've talked about this. Okay, so we could see it. Let's say that the Judge Merchan actually sentences Trump to be in some kind of behind bars, someplace, okay? Some kind of behind bars. Is that going to be the straw that'll break the camel's back to where people in high places and the right places say it's not going to happen? And all of a sudden, as 3 other people have been shown, one of them is Henry Gruver. One of them was Terry Bennett. Tanks rolling down the street, and basically an internal revolution. I mean, the people of the nation in a military, bullet-wielding, blood-shedding event take over America. I'd say there's a very good possibility. And Dmitry was told that August 3rd of 1984. Well, August 3rd of 2024 is 40 years later, like it rained 40 days and 40 nights. 40 is the number of judgment. So for several reasons, I'm watching for the internal revolution to start this year. Did I say it's going to? No, I don't know. God has not. Matter of fact, God has not told me any of this is going to come to pass this year. But assuming you ask me my opinion, that's my opinion. Now let's go on. If you look at these, Omer Usher's in Palestinian state, and she did not see the word written, O-M-E-R. And we are just guessing. That is the counting of the Omer. But there's a high probability, however you want to cut it up, that America is going to split Israel this year. Then that will bring the next one, catastrophe hits America, which is probably an earthquake. And then that makes sense that America's greatest times have been, great earthquake hit us, and Israel, our good friend, our best friend, our strongest ally, turns her back on us. Why? Because we just forced her to split her leg. She's not happy. Now, I think the next 3, there will be a pause to it. That's, again, you're asking me my opinion, I'm giving you my opinion. Then we'll see Israel give the Palestinians a state. It'll only be a temporary measure because oil will be discovered. That's where we're talking about Israel is attacked. I think the next one will be oil will be discovered in Israel, and I think I know who's going to discover it. The oil makes the Jews 2 things: willing to fight for the land and also give them the finances to build their military. And I think all of that is going to take a year or 2 or 3, someplace in there. And that's the reason we ask you to subscribe, because it seems like if I don't say we're in some kind of a jam, we're in some kind of a jam. I don't like having to say that. I prefer to have everybody just all sign up, $9.90 a month or more, on a regular monthly automatic donation so that we can take the dips out. And that's whether it's Christmas time or whether it's summertime, we're still okay. And right now we're not okay. So if God has blessed you, can help us. Now would be a really good time. Okay. Also, I called Joseph Kitchen a couple of days ago and I said, look, I want some kind of a deal. Can't you guys give Prophecy Club people some kind of a deal? It took a couple of days to work on it. Four people about a year, but they're going to double it. So that'll feed about 8 people for a year. And if that's all you have, just wheat, you can live on just wheat, my brothers and sisters. Again, there's a lot of fancy recipes. You can make it do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, if you have wheat, you can soak it, you can boil it, you can eat it like chicken.
Diane, Florida's at sea level, isn't it? They can't afford to have floods.
Okay? You can live off of just wheat. And it'll last and last and last. josephskitchen.com. There's an S in there, josephskitchen.com. All right, now, one more thing I got to cover. Okay, so as I'm recording this, it's the 10th. So as I'm recording this, here we are right here. Now, you got two Jews, you got three opinions. Some people say this is Pentecost. Some people say this is Pentecost. Either way, now we understand what usher means, and that it may mean it might not happen exactly during the counting of the Omer. It might come a week or two or three, or maybe even a month or two or three after that. So we're looking for Omer Usher. Means that, let's say 2 months later, it comes out that they give the Palestinians a state, but it comes out that it was actually negotiated and agreed upon during the counting of the Omer. So that could be ushers, like you usher someone to their seat. Kind of like we had one person, my friend, called me and he says, well, have you ever looked up the definition of the usher? And then as I'm talking to him, I see another email that just comes in at the same time. So both these emails are basically saying it might not happen during the counting of the Omer, but it was later discovered that it was agreed to during the counting of the Omer. And so I'm just saying, don't necessarily think it's got to happen by the 16th, and don't think that it's got to happen this year. Okay, I'm just telling you. Then yesterday, 6/9/2024, Saudis no longer require dollars to sell or to buy their oil. Now that changes things for 50 years. And now what they're going to do is start selling their oil in yuan. That is going to be big things, because Shane Warren has actually told us back in 2010 that the thing that would start killing our currency would be when they are selling oil in another currency other than the dollar. Boom. That happened yesterday, as in Sunday was the last day. And also part of this, you'd see that silver would skyrocket far more than gold. This also ties with this headline. See this headline where it says US dollar dropped 30% right there? We could see that headline any day now. And, you know, it may not necessarily be a headline. It may be just that it happens, okay? In other words, now, Leslie's, we believe, will actually be headlines on our newspaper. And he said he saw newspapers handed to him. He said he saw these newspaper headlines. But I've seen this before. It might not necessarily come to pass exactly the way we think it ought to. And then, of course, after that, we see the perfect storm. Inflation reaches new high. A food shortage, we haven't seen that. But this could happen in the next month or two or three. I mean, if the government cuts off sending out all checks, all WIC checks, all of the food stamps, all of the Social Security, how long would it take for people to be protesting? The answer is not long. All right, now, this is one I covered just yesterday in church. Petrodollar dusk. What does that mean? Into the petrodollar. Petrodollar dusk, petro yuan dawn. So now Saudis are changing from selling the oil in a dollar to selling the oil in a yuan, just like this prophecy told us, and just like Shane Warren told us. So here we are. Here we are. We are no longer waiting for this prophecy to come to pass, my brothers and sisters. It has now passed. The hammer has dropped. Now it's just a question of how long it's going to be before it hits our pocketbooks. Might not be very long. Here's another one. BRICS developing platform for transactions in national currencies. In other words, since the dollar is now gone, they're now going to start using their own national currencies. Here's further proof. June 2024, Saudi Arabia is expected to announce, and they did, that they're not selling oil in dollars anymore. How does that fit? Anti-scaling riot fencing goes up around the White House. Now, is that because of an anti-Israel protest, as they are thinking? Or is that because they know what they're about to do to the dollar, and there's about to be some people angry saying we want our entitlements? My point is, my brothers and sisters, if you have money you don't want to lose as the stock market crashes, as the dollar devalues. Look, I mean, you know, we've been talking about this for, what, 12 years now? Now here it is. So I can't give, by the law, I can't give you financial advice. But if you don't want to lose your money, your life savings, your pile of money, wherever it might be, if it's in paper, if it's in cash, by the way, you should have some cash, in my opinion. Again, I'm not giving financial advice, but if it's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. You can lose it. These guys can help you, but it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get this thing done. And you may not have 2 or 3 weeks. So you better call 800-200-GOLD, 800-200-4653. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't cost. You can just call them and ask a few questions and say, thank you very much, and hang up if you want to. But my suggestion is call them and talk to them. It doesn't hurt. They're not going to beat you up. They're not going to punch you in the nose because you called them. Call them and say, okay, here's my situation. What do you think? Maybe you like their suggestions, maybe you don't. But at least you got another opinion. All right, now, man, I ain't going to get through this today. I got a lot to cover. NATO, war preparations. Following America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. That may and probably is about to happen. Some of the people start fighting against the government.
Okay, Mars, I'm out in a sec too.
Problems. Then from the ocean, here it is. Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America. I've been carrying this message 32 years. And now it's at the door. Let's look. Russia says it is now ready to strike NATO airfield. Period. Look. Ready to strike NATO airfields that are hosting Ukrainian jets. Okay, so this little thing of Russia doing a little military exercise in Ukraine, as I've been saying, hate to say, started February 22 of 22, and I said, this is Armageddon.
Okay, guys, I might hang up now then. You're all tired. Mike from around the world tomorrow. See you tomorrow, guys. God bless.